Ladies and gentlemen, let's go. We ain't got no time to waste. Let's go. You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Pointing out his protections, McKinnon in motion, shotgun snap, quick throw, goal line, caught, spinning, touchdown, Kelsey. 1 yard touchdown run. Kelsey, his second touchdown catch today. And the Chiefs extend their lead before halftime. Second down and 6, shotgun snap and a launching pass down the far side. Leaping interception made. Jalen Watson, who falls down on the far sideline. At the 31, a backpedaling leaping interception on the sideline by Kansas City at the 31 of the Chiefs.
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, on a Monday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Beards, heading up until 2 o'clock. The next 4 hours, we've got you. 913-912-4810, text line to join the show, 913-3810810, the phone number. To join us today, the first couple of hours, talking Chiefs, talking Jags, talking Bengals, talking ankles, just doing some talking over the next 4 hours. We will talk with Field Yates coming up at noon. Our NFL insider from ESPN. He will be our guest, and then we'll hear from Andy Reid. Press conference coming up later on this afternoon. In the noon hour, we'll hear from Andy Reid after the Jags game, and now getting ready for number 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th AFC Championship game hosted at Arrowhead Stadium, and we'll hear from Andy Reid, and then Mick Shaffer will join us in the 1 o'clock hour. We got Learn Funniest Best. All that still to come. 913-3810810 is the phone number. Chiefs get the win against the Jags 27-20. And now they get ready for the Bengals. I'm not sure how much to even discuss the Chiefs and Jags game outside of maybe some larger takeaways and then move on to Bengals and ankle watch day 1. Should have a sounder or some sort of like very, dramatic music. Duh. Ankle watch, day 1.
I think we have the Law and Order dun 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 somewhere in there.
Dun, dun. Day 1. Dun, dun.
All right, give me a commercial break, and we'll see if we can develop some ankle watch.
All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue.
Be right back.
You wanted a commercial break? You said give me a commercial break right now. I didn't
Want to see more of the zone? Watch the...
I don't know. Beards was answering the phones, and he's like, am I throwing it to break? What's going on?
Beards was like, an early break?
Wow,
Yeah, yes.
We just got on there. We can catch up. We got to do some catching up because Reed's coming up in the noon hour. We got all that stuff. Let's do it, man. Let's see what we can do here. Yes, ankle watch day 1. Here's what I think Andy Reid will say today and Wednesday and Friday. Well, especially today and Wednesday. Well, I mean, we'll it's progressing. We'll just have to see how it goes the rest of the week. But, it's progressing. He's in there in treatment. And we're getting ready to play a football game against the Bengals.
I'm opening DraftKings to see if there's a over-under 2.5 wheel C's this week for Andy Reid. I'd hammer the over.
Oh, yeah. Hit the over like I told you to hit Pacheco's over.
You got most of that in one run.
In that game. That thing dropped to 46.5. I'm like, what is going on here? What are they? I don't even know what he's doing. What are you doing in Vegas? What are you guys doing? Hopefully people did not hammer the over in passing yards for Mahomes.
That was unfortunate.
But Pacheco, the over definitely hit. All right, let's get into the show. 913-3810810. Chiefs do beat the Jags 27-20, and the conversation is around ankle. It'll be ankle watch. We joke, but it'll be serious all week long, wondering about how much better that ankle can get, what he may look like on Sunday against the Bengals in another game in which history and reputation and legacy and Hall of Fame status, even though, we're not talking about like, does he get in or not, but just in terms of legacy, it's another one of those games for Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow. We know Joe Burrow is 3-0 against Patrick Mahomes. He's 1-0 in the playoffs. Because to me, that's all that matters. Because the Chiefs beat the Patriots and Tom Brady plenty of times during the regular season. They did not beat them in the playoffs. Josh Allen and the Bills have defeated the Chiefs in the regular season. They have not beat them in the playoffs. And they won't get an opportunity to do that this weekend down in Atlanta. Because the Bengals went there and just simply whipped their ass. That was just as much as you can get with two good teams and a team playing on the road that wins the game. It's as much of a woodshed that you can get with two good teams that are both viewed as can win the Super Bowl, the Bills being the preseason Super Bowl favorites, playing at home and losing like that. There are a lot of good teams versus bad teams. That's a woodshed game. That's as much of a woodshed game against two really good teams there in Buffalo. The Bengals just whipped them all day. From a physical standpoint, they were running it down their throat. They were the more physical team defensively. They brought it to the Bills. Now, I don't know if that means the Bills are frauds. I don't know if that means in a one-game setting things happen. The Bills having to kick a field goal, the Bengals not, because the Bengals pretty good at putting it in the end zone. But it was clearly one side was the more physical team that was taking it to the other team. And now the Chiefs get ready for that team on Sunday after defeating the Jags 27-20 over the weekend on Saturday. I felt like Eminem at about, I don't know, what was it, 4 o'clock? There was Mom Spaghetti on the sweater. I was nervous. And there was no calm and ready.
You did not appear calm and ready at all.
I was going to drop some bombs.
Yes.
My palms were sweaty. It was probably the most, I'm trying to think, frustrated isn't the word, but when you're watching a game, you might have some, yeah, right, all right, or some son of a, guard him. Mm-hmm. Like, would you please block somebody? It was probably as loud of a reaction or as visceral of a reaction when I saw the hit.
Yeah.
Mahomes was reaching down to his ankle, right? We know that after after Blake Bell's catch, and then it, showed Mahomes and reaching down and kind of limping, and they showed the replay, and I saw that, and it was as visceral and a demonstrative reaction as I had the entire game.
Very similar hit that Tony Pollard had last night, air cast, broken leg.
That's right.
Very similar looking hits.
That was the worry kicks in immediately of, okay, is the ankle worse than just a high ankle sprain?
Yep.
And oh, by the way, that knee got buckled too. So is there MCL damage to that knee? And I was torn in that moment. In that I wanted him to stay in because it's Patrick freaking Mahomes. And I wanted him to prove that he could still play, that the ankle injury wasn't going to stop him, that he could be out there, to give everybody, myself, selfishly, hope that there was still a chance for the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl this year. Because if he couldn't play, if he just leaves the game, goes to the locker room, and is out, there would obviously be way more conversation this week about how bad it is, X-rays and all of that stuff, X-rays and MRIs. But I was torn because I didn't want Mahomes to leave the game and have to go back to the locker room and get X-rays because I didn't want to know the result if it was bad. But on the flip side, there was a part of me that said, get him out of the game. The next 15 years are more important than this season. I mean, and that went through and it's tough in the moment because you're thinking they got a chance to win the Super Bowl this year. Even if Mahomes can limp his way through the next, at that point, 3 quarters and 2 games, so 4, 8, can he limp his way through 11 quarters of football and find other ways to win? But is it worth that if something bigger would have happened along the way to that, and now you're dealing with something that's chronic? And it's like, well, remember when Mahomes had that athleticism and he was able to move around and get outside the pocket, and he had that sneaky speed, right? He ran faster laterally than he did straight ahead, but that Steph Curry ankle, continues to get him, and it's just something that's going to be bothered. It's the rest of his career is going to have to deal with that. That also flashed through my mind of having to deal with something like that. So it was trying to fight the two emotions, the angel and the devil. The devil was like, play, play, play. The angel was like, Jason, there's 15 years of this guy. You know,
those angels and devils, by the way, was Rick Burkholder and Patrick Mahomes. Because Mahomes agreed with the first part, as we found out in real time.
That's right. That's right. And it was obviously a struggle to get him to go back to the locker room. Let's hear Andy Reid. This one, just Mahomes trying to stay in. And that conversation they were having on the sideline, and we saw Mahomes, rip off and throw down the cape, and then he had to put it back on, if you know what I'm talking about. Mahomes and Andy Reid, that conversation. Here's Andy Reid talking about what was taking place on the sideline.
Well, it was hard getting him out of the game, first of all. He wanted to fight, and so we got him out, went to the x-ray, got an x-ray, looked at, taped. He came back, and he said he felt good enough to be protected, where he's not going to get hurt. That's obviously the primary thing. And he felt like his mobility was good enough where he could do that. So we did a few little things with him on the sideline to see where he was at, put him in, and it was a short leash. So if I felt like he wasn't able to handle it, he would have been out and back in handy. So.
Now let's hear from Patrick Mahomes, his version of what took place in the sideline conversation with Andy Reid.
Yeah, I obviously didn't want to go back and see it. I didn't want to go get the x-rays or whatever it was. I wanted just to continue to play. I told him I would do it at halftime, but Coach, in the best interest of me, he made me go back there and get that x-ray before he put me back in the game. And for a while, I thought I could get and play through it, and then he said, I'm not putting you back in, so you might as well go get the x-ray, and then if it's negative or whatever, I'll put you back in. So I ran back there, got the x-ray, and was able to finish the game.
How are you feeling now after the game's over, and how's the ankle feeling now?
I was just talking to him. It feels better. It feels better than I thought it was going to be now. Obviously, I have a lot of adrenaline going right now, so we'll see how it feels. But I'll hop right into treatment tonight and try to do whatever I can to be as close to 100% by next week. But luckily for us, we played the early game on Saturday, so we get an extra almost half a day that I can let that ankle rest.
There's a couple thoughts from those clips. I wonder how much Patrick Mahomes did not want to go get the x-ray because he didn't want to know the results.
I think that's a huge part of it.
No, I'm not going back and getting the x-ray because as soon as I walk back there, I might not be walking back on the field until September of 2023, later on this year. And I thought that too. But there was also you can't have him go out there and playing on a broken bone if something happens there with his ankle. And we saw then last night Tony Pollard, go through the same thing. One of the other things, though, is maybe every coach does this or would do this, but I'm not sure. You're in a playoff game that at that point was 7-7 against a team that's playing really good football. And you look across the field, and Doug Peterson is a guy that you know how good he is. He's got a Super Bowl ring over there that he can tap on the counter, when people are talking to him in a post-game podium. Like, Doug, the decision you made there in the fourth quarter. Yeah, I guess had I do it over again, I guess maybe I might have done something different. But I'm not sure what I would have done. This Super Bowl ring that I've got, I kind of know what I'm doing here. How many coaches would have said, you want to go back in? All right, go back in. Let's do it. Let's do it. Instead, Andy Reid, I know you want to go back in, but I don't care. You're getting x-rays. And until I know that thing is healthy, I'm not putting you back in the game. And so if you don't go get x-rays, you're not getting back in the game, so you might as well get it done right now. You're sat. You're benched until you go get x-rays. Because a lot of times when it comes to sports, when it comes to the highest level competitive nature, when you've got a superstar that says, no, I'm good to go, I want to go play, I don't know how many coaches would go, all right, go. All right, get back in there. Let's go. Let's go. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's see it. So I think there's something to be said for Andy Reid. Maybe he is one of 32 NFL coaches that would have done that in the game. But I'm not sure it would have been universal across the board. Now, job security, maybe faith in the guys around him, Maybe the fact that it was the Jags. Or maybe just Andy Reid would have done that no matter what. That you have to protect Patrick Mahomes from himself oftentimes. And you've got to trust the doctors. And if Rick Burkholder says, look, we don't know if that thing's broken, Andy. You know, we got to get him out. We got to go check that thing. And he's like, okay, we're trusting the doctors. But those are the two things that from those conversations of, I don't think Patrick Mahomes wanted to know the results. And I think there's some credit to Andy Reid of saying, your health is more important than whether or not we can find a way, whether or not we will win this game today, because we know it's going to be tougher without you in, and we ain't up 17-0. It's 7-7 right now. Well, I guess at that point it was 10-7, right? Because they had kicked the field goal.
And,
they kicked the field goal. So it's 10-7. You're coming out of the game. And, oh, by the way, the ball is kicked at the 2-yard line. After the punt, it's down at the 2-yard line. Those are two things that I hear and think from those conversations that took place on the sideline.
It's such a wild picture to stitch together. We're talking about this tiny bit right before the show started. To think about the playoff moments now that Patrick Mahomes has, either in direct light of injury or immediately following it. You have the kneecap, and then the next memory I have that's kneecap related, I have the Denver game and all of the horrors that came with that. And then I remember Patrick Mahomes at the parade talking with a very, very partied out voice of, my kneecap was on the side of my leg. And then you have a Super Bowl where he seemed like a superhero with a turf toe. You have him get choked out and briefly lose consciousness, we think.
Which also then later, which in that game created the turf toe.
Which, right, both of those.
He had the turf toe injury, and then he got choked out. Both those happened against the Browns.
Both of those come in the Browns game, where Chad Henne comes in, and man, that guy's got one play that I trust him to convert on third and short. Every time, as long as it's that sprint out.
Number 10 or number 19, doesn't matter.
If you move like Hill/Tony, you've got it.
Yeah.
And now,
or you move like Jagger.
That's oh boy, I don't know. I don't know if Mick could take a hit at this point. I think he'd have maybe one reception, and then he needs to get out of bounds. Mick Jagger, that is. Just don't know that he can take a hit at this age.
Yeah, well, Tony got out of bounds, so it's fine.
So, right, because similarly explosive. And then you have this game where, and look, Matt Derrick mentioned this on postgame on Saturday. This is something that will definitely be affected by what happens next. But if the Chiefs beat the Bengals, if the Chiefs win a Super Bowl, this is going to be an enormous chapter in the story of Patrick Mahomes, a guy who already has books of content on him now. So for this story from the sideline, I'm really glad Mahomes gave us his version of it, because Andy Reid was not going to make it nearly as dramatic as it seemed like it was, and Mahomes gave us a little bit of the drama. This is another block building up this legacy. Jordan had the flu game. I'm calling this one the shoe game for Patrick Mahomes. It's not perfect, but it's, the shoe's near the ankle. We're going to count it. And if this ends up being a moment in another Super Bowl run for the Chiefs, it's going to be yet another legacy game. Even if they lose to the Bengals, if he's hobbled on Sunday, the performance that he put out after returning to the field, unbelievable. Yeah. His EPA after returning on one leg was almost exactly his EPA during the regular season when he was the MVP in football. It's unreal.
Well, I mean, before the injury, he was 10 of 12 for 77 yards and a touchdown.
And
we were on a heater.
We were hooting and hollering. We were both hooting and both hollering here with me and Beards watching that game, that first drive. Oh!
I'd said last week, and, it's not going out on a limb, but even though Mahomes starts off some playoff games too amped up, and they don't, maybe don't score.
That was a real
in
thing.
Those games, that what I had said last week with Matt Derrick and also with Anthony Sherman said, what I see from the opening drive is 9 plays, 75 yards, Mahomes just dealing, handing off a couple of times, and they go down and score a touchdown. It's like, all right, there's the offense. There's Mahomes. There's Andy Reid. There's a few wrinkles. It's 7-0. They're good. Yep. And we saw that it wasn't 9 plays. It was like 11 or 12. Like it was a hell of a drive. And then they were doing the same thing in the next drive. And then, the injury happens. And I'm somebody that always gets into the, well, what if this would have happened, right? I mean, I've talked a lot about Deshaun Watson if he'd have gone to Georgia, like what the difference in history might be. But I couldn't help but think, and like, damn, all the freaking passes Justin Watson has dropped this year. Why couldn't he have dropped that third down pass? Because the next play was the was the injury.
That is.
If he'd have just dropped the damn third down pass, the Chiefs punt, and you're like, oh, come on, Watson, catch the ball. Not knowing that, dropping that pass may have saved, it's a short-term pain for long-term gain for Justin Watson. But no, I've got to make a diving catch and pick up a first down and flex, and it's all about me.
He's been looking 5 minutes into the future all season, and there have been season-ending injuries that Justin Watson prevented by dropping passes. That's brilliant.
I know.
I love that take.
That's what I'm saying, but I think about it, it's like, obviously, in all reality.
That's so Raven? No, that's so Justin Watson.
No, in reality, though, I mean, it's like he made a hell of a play. Nobody knew that was going to happen. He could have gotten injured, the next possession. But I think about those things like, oh, what if this would have happened and that would have happened? Just punt the ball. It would have been annoying if they had to punt the ball, and because it was 7-7, you just went down and scored, and you're like, okay, well, now your next possession, you can't do the same thing. But it happens, and injuries happen. And Patrick Mahomes is going to have to find a way to play through it, and the Chiefs will have to find a way to get through it against a team that is really, really good and better than the Bengals team they lost to last year.
Yeah.
Now, I think the Chiefs are better better now than they were last year. But with a hobbled Mahomes, then that is not the case. So you would have then a lesser offense, in my opinion, with the Chiefs if Mahomes is hobbled or can't move as much, versus a better Bengals team that beat you on your field last year. And by the way, this is the first team. Yeah, this is the first team since the Patriots in 2018 that the Chiefs have played with a championship pedigree. Now, I know the Bengals didn't win the Super Bowl, but they won the AFC last year. Every other team they played was in the same position or lesser than the Chiefs. In 2019, those 2 games to get to the Super Bowl. 2020, those games to get to the Super Bowl. Last year, those games, and then losing to the Bengals. The Bengals have a championship pedigree. They're the reigning AFC champs. They ain't walking in and going, boy, what do we got to do to beat this monster? They walk in saying, we're the monster. This is the first time they will face off against a team in the postseason that has been there, done that, and has been on a stage holding a trophy in your stadium last year. The psychological advantage is on one side of the field. It's on the Bengals side of the field. They walk in feeling like they are the best team in the NFL. The Chiefs walking in, they may feel like they're the best team in the NFL, but they know they're 0-3 against that team over there. They know that, well, we got to play a perfect game. We got to do this. Do they play tight because they feel like we can't make a mistake? We got to play a perfect game against that team? Do the Bengals, for some reason, take the Chiefs for granted and feel like, we own that team? They were Eli Apple smoking a cigar in the locker room after beating the Bills. It was all about that game. Oh, they were going to play. They were going down to Atlanta. They were going down to Atlanta. It's all about that, all about this, all about we beat them. We showed the world. Nobody believed it. They're not going to be able to play that card this week. But they're still a damn good team, and they were the much more physical team. And I wonder how much, the circle the wagons, if this is a game where then the defense, the offensive line, other players come together and say, we got to rally around Patrick Mahomes. He has saved our ass so many times. It's our turn to return the favor and make sure we get it done and he doesn't have to be Superman on one leg like he was trying to be in the Super Bowl. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, take your phone calls, texts, and hear some more from Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Chad Henne, Travis Kelce, Creed Humphrey, Frank Clark, Justin Reed, and some others as we continue on this Victory Monday. Chiefs get the win 27-20, getting ready for the Bengals in the AFC Championship game coming up Sunday at 5:30 on CBS and on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Chiefs Bengals live right here. Pre-game starting at 6 o'clock. We'll have special coverage all week long of the fifth AFC Championship game for the Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium. We'll have special coverage all week long. We've got pregame at 6 o'clock. Then we'll have the NFC Championship game and then Chiefs and Bengals right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. More Zone coming up next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
To your point, I'll grant you.
I don't want you to grant me anything.
No, I'm going to grant it.
I'm going to take it.
I'm granting this to you. I'm writing it right here.
I'm going to take this from you here in a second.
This is a grant.
Go ahead and
you
take
can have it when I pass. I am going to.
You don't pass very often.
I do not. No, I don't. I like to shoot. It's a black hole. You throw it to me, I'm shooting. Sorry, it's your fault. I mean, you shouldn't have passed it to me, you idiot.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you here in the zone, heading up until 2 o'clock. Field Yates comes up at noon. Andy Reid at about 12:30. Mick Shaffer, 1 o'clock. 913-381-810. Travis leads us off here on Sports Radio 810 WHB on a Victory Monday. Chiefs beat the Jags. They get ready for the AFC Championship game, 5:30, Arrowhead Stadium against the Cincinnati Bengals. Travis, go right ahead, sir. What's on your mind?
So, I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of like ready to move on to, to the Cincinnati game. So here's my question for you guys. Do you think that it is possible that the ankle injury to Pat is actually going to kind of nudge Andy in a direction to put a game plan around them that is actually going to be really beneficial as far as like short passes, running the football? Because without the injury, if it's just Pat at 100%, I don't think Andy is – I think he's a little too stubborn to change things up. I think that's why they beat us 3 times in a row. I mean, there's times when we clearly could have just ran the ball and we chose to pass. Now we're going to be kind of forced to run the ball a little bit more, and I actually think it's going to be to our advantage. I don't want Pat hurt. I'd rather Pat be 100%, but at the same time, I really want to beat these guys, and I think that Pacheco absolutely needs to see the ball 15 times minimum on Sunday, at the minimum, for them to have a chance to beat these guys. And the other thing, just real quick, what can Spags do to make sure that what happens Sunday doesn't happen this weekend, as far as like Karlaftis being one-on-one with Christian Kirk? Because if that's Chase or any of those guys, I mean, Spags is going to have to be on his absolute – I mean, he's going to have to absolutely be on his A game as far as his schemes and his packages and stuff. So that's all I got. Just ready for the game. Hope they win, and you guys do great. Thanks.
Travis, I appreciate the phone call, man. 913-381-810. Yeah, that was Bob Sutton-esque of Karlaftis on Christian Kirk. And before the snap, you saw Willie Gay telling Karlaftis, pointing to Christian Kirk. It's kind of a giveaway, right? If you're like, hey, you've got him. All right, so this guy's not blitzing. Well, this guy, Karlaftis isn't rushing. So that means Willie Gay's probably rushing, because Willie Gay would have, either way, it just seems odd that you would have him in formation like that. And you know what? Tip of the cap, credit Doug Peterson, that he got the mismatch he was looking for. And then the Chiefs played right into it by having a blitz on to where the defensive end would be guarding the running back out of the backfield, and that happened to be Christian Kirk. So, yeah, if it's Jamar Chase or anybody else, it's a touchdown. Because it was Christian Kirk and it was a touchdown. So, yeah, that should not happen. Totally agree with that. But they got caught. You have some blitzes that work. You have some blitzes that the other team, you tip your cap and say, well done. They got you. I do wonder if you see Christian Kirk in the backfield, do you audible out of that and say, okay, this isn't that's not ETN or Hasty or.
If you do that though, now you've given the other team a free get out of blitz card. Like you could say, oh well, if we just show them the matchup they don't like, well, they're going to check right out of it. Like that play just did not stick with me as much as I think it will for some Chiefs fans, probably because of the memory of Bob Sutton.
That's what it is.
Because Doug Peterson got one.
Yeah.
And even with that play, and even with short fields, the Jags scored 20 points, and only 17 of them when it still mattered. Like that last field goal, all the Chiefs needed to do after that was recover an onside kick. So I am feeling pretty good about the overall defensive performance we saw. The Chiefs were winning matchups defensively all day.
So he asked also about the ankle injury. Is there a possibility that it creates a different game plan from Andy Reid, maybe more of the Alex Smith offense, the even Chad Henne offense on the 98-yard drive, as opposed to what we see of a typical Patrick Mahomes offense? I asked the same question to myself and went back and looked at all of the different passes that Patrick Mahomes had in the game. And before the injury, they had some of those, RPO to Juju where he went sidearm. They had the rollout right to Kelsey, which ended up being the touchdown, throwing back across his body. There was a quick roll right in the pass to Tony. They had some of those things. But when they weren't doing designed, it was in the shotgun and then 5-step drop. Getting the ball in the shotgun and you're dropping 5 steps after that. When Henny came in, well, actually, after the injury, it was quick throw to Tony. The quick little out to Kelsey for 7 yards. It was a quick drop. Then a quick pass to Sky Moore. Then he did have one deep drop there, which was the pass where he, double clutched and then it slipped out of his hand. That was a deeper drop, and he had a clean pocket. But what Patrick Mahomes does, and I don't know that he can change this overnight against the Bengals, but if he sees, when he takes that 5-step drop, if he sees to his left the front of the jersey of a defender, he's moving. He's on the move. He's going to his right or he's running straight up the middle, and that's what happened. It ended up being a pretty clean pocket. But he ran forward, and then as he's running forward, that's when he started to throw it. It would have been an interception. It was a great call on the broadcast, and then he tried to bring it back, and it was an incomplete pass. But he did leave a clean pocket. That was a deeper drop. And I wonder how much the deeper drops might be eliminated, because when Mahomes drops that deep, we know Orlando Brown can get beat around the outside. So if you're doing that, you're creating more of a chance that Orlando Brown's going to get beat with speed around the outside. And when Mahomes sees that jersey, he's gone. He's either running straight up the middle or he's running right or whatever. Henny comes in, quick drop, roll out to Tony, quick drop, 3-step drop, the quick Kelsey touchdown. There was no shotgun, he takes 5 steps. No. A couple plays, it was even 2 steps. And then throw the ball on time, get rid of it. Mahomes comes in. Quick drop, clean pocket. Ended up running up the middle when he picked up the first down, hopping his way. 3-step drop and quick drop, sort of the same thing. So I noted both. One of was just going through quick drop, and then sometimes I noted 3-step, but it's the same thing. 3-step, quick drop. His first, when he came back in the game, the first deep drop where he took 5 steps in the shotgun was the long pass to Noah Gray. And that's where I wonder if that's going to be part of the, and by the way, they went right back to the quick drop, screen pass, quick little throw out to Tony, some of those things. I wonder if that's going to be part of the game plan of get rid of the ball. Okay, 5-step drop. Now we beat them because they're pressing up, knowing it's going to be short passes, and Noah Gray hits them for 30-some-odd yards because he's wide open, because they handed off the tight end to somebody that wasn't there, because the guy that was supposed to be there immediately came up to stop the underneath route. And Andy Reid got him on that play. So I do wonder what the game plan will look like this week, and does that actually counter if the Bengals try to drop 8 and just bring 3, where then Mahomes is going, well, I can't really run around here, so I've got to stay in the pocket and survey and see where the open guy is going to be and find just take what the Bengals are giving me. So I don't know. That could be it could be a pie in the sky view, Josh, of what happens. But there was a different game plan in how deep the drops were pre-injury and post-injury. He wasn't dropping nearly as deep into his pass sets.
And I also think the Bengals will probably have, and this is Lou Anarumo, baby, we're going to all find out together.
Here we go!
I think the Bengals will probably do some different things than the Jags did. One of the things the Jags did in this game was they were blitzing pretty consistently because they were not winning enough of their matchups, either in the trenches or outside. So it was, hey, we're going to just throw bleep out and try to speed all this up. Mahomes on blitzes, I think this might have just been from the second half, via the Athletic Football Show, shockingly enough. Patrick Mahomes had 2.85 seconds to throw on blitzes. The Chiefs were, for all the bleep that offensive line has gotten, and also, especially on plays that got Patrick Mahomes injured, it's valid. But overall, especially as Mahomes was doing more to shift the protections, and you were getting a lot of Jerick McKinnon, who did not hit his receiving over. He didn't receive a ball at all, much less score a touchdown. I think the reason for that is because when Jerick McKinnon was out there, you knew that he could decleat a mother bleeper. That was one of the best pass pro reps I've ever seen from a running back, and the fact that Jerick McKinnon's the guy that gets to claim that is no surprise whatsoever.
And one of the best linebackers in Foye Oluokun, who led the NFL in tackles, he decleated that guy.
That guy. So the Chiefs did an exquisite job still giving Mahomes time after he got hurt, even with the blitzes on. If they can recreate that against the Bengals, or if the Bengals are going to try to blitz at all, a team that's able to get pressure with 3 apparently still, I will be very curious to see what their approach is. But you did see the Chiefs adjust in real time to keep Mahomes cleaner after he was out there on one leg.
Let's bring in Steve real quick, and then we'll go to a break and continue with your phone calls. Steve, 913-381-0810. Go right ahead. What's on your mind?
Yes, sir. Let's go with the good things. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Pacheco.
Yep.
Let's go with the bad things. Our offensive line was not good. Anybody can beat Orlando Brown. Just run around him. It's not a problem. Number 2, we had 2 third down and ones, and we can't get a third down and 1 with 3 Pro Bowlers on the line. That's a bit disheartening. Also, I don't know who the defensive coordinator is of the Bengals. I cannot pull his name out of my head right now.
Lou Anarumo.
Okay,
Big Lou will get you there.
He kicked Mahomes' butt last year, the second half of the AFC Championship game, and then this year he stomped all over Josh Allen. So somewhere they figured this out, and I don't know. I'm a little bit worried about it. I really am. Also, besides Travis Kelce, there's not one receiver on our team that could make the starting lineup at the Bengals. We need a dynamic receiver. We let Tyreek Hill go. That's fine. I don't care. We let him go, but we need a dynamic receiver. Somebody. I was watching Jamar Chase just pull him out of the air like somebody's doing a bounce pass into the shack, man, on the low post. He just grabbed him. Didn't matter if it was snowing, how fast the ball was coming. He could just snatch it like it's nothing. Higgins the same way. We need a dynamic receiver. I don't see anybody on the team right now. The Sky Moore guy, we'll give him a couple of years, see what happens. But right now, Valdez-Scantling doesn't scare anybody, and Juju Smith doesn't scare anybody. So I don't know how we're going to do this. I mean, Mahomes, this reminds me of when John Elway used to go to the Super Bowl, and he would get slaughtered all the time because it was just John Elway, and they had nothing else. I mean, Mecklenburger, and those guys were nothing. They get crushed every year, and, I mean, we're putting way too much on Mahomes. This is totally unfair to him. We have a generational talent. We sucked in KC for years. Marty Schottenheimer broke our heart. We have this great talent, but by God, we need to give him something, guys. I mean, we really do. And Travis Kelce is awesome. If it wasn't for him, I don't know if we would have won 8 games this year. So, I mean, we need a dynamic receiver. And I don't know. To me, I wouldn't sign OBJ. No way would I sign him. He's just anybody can run around him. And they have very good edge rushers on Cincinnati. They have super edge rushers. They were getting on Allen like it was nothing. Yeah. So we need to take a look at that. I'd be glad to hear your answers.
Hey, Steve, I appreciate the phone call, man. 913-381-0810 is the phone number. We'll answer that on the other side of the break, get into a little bit of that, and then continue with your phone calls as we roll along. Field Yates coming up at noon, Andy Reid coming up about 12:30. Your phone calls, and we'll answer what Steve had brought up there on the other side. More Zone next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
They've been firm up front.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
We'll continue with your phone calls on the other side of the break. As Steve was talking about the dynamic receiver, look, I think Tony can be that. We'll see what happens moving forward. Right now, they have what they have. They have Kelsey, who's a pretty dynamic player. And they're finding ways to get the ball to Kadarius Toney. And that run down the sideline on Saturday was pretty damn impressive.
I totally forgot until a Twitch commenter said it. I forgot they had Justin Ross.
They do have Justin Ross. We'll see.
Get your jerseys now, kids.
And I agree with and I echo the concern on the short yardage. Quarterback sneak, Noah Gray, 3rd and 1 late in the game.
Why not just let Mahomes sneak it in that game? I mean, come on, Jason.
You shut your mouth.
When The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Rest your mind, enjoy some time with the family, get that groin ready to go.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
913-3810810. We continue rolling along right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, taking your phone calls. Field Yates coming up at noon. Let's bring in Rev, who has been waiting patiently to join the show. Chiefs get the win 27-20, getting ready for the Bengals on Sunday, that you can listen to right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Rev, thank you for your patience, man. Go right ahead. What's on your mind?
Hey, man, I appreciate you, Jason. You guys got a great show. Hey, listen, man, I look at a lot of times people always look at the other team as being so much better. I'm just going to take a step back and look at the Bengals versus who was that they played?
Bills?
The Ravens.
Oh, the Ravens in week one, yeah, or a wild card, yeah.
Okay, they almost got beat by a backup quarterback. They barely won that game. A lot of times people forget. It was one play away, I think.
Yeah.
So my thing is, I don't think that the Bengals is as good as they are just because they beat us, those 3 times, and then look at the game with the Bills. Okay, they beat the Bills. They was a better team in the snow. You're never going to be able to say even kill, who's the better to me. So I'm just looking at the Chiefs, that Patrick is injured. I think the team is going to rally around him, and I think they're going to come in here. It's going to be cold in here, and I think they're going to come in here, and I think the Chiefs is going to win Sunday. I'm not going to look at how good the Bengals are, because the fact of the matter, Joe Burrow has not won a championship or MVP, him or Josh Allen. And I just look at this thing, man. I think that if push comes to a shove, this organization is a good organization. I like the way they did Patrick Saturday. And I think they all going to pull together and say, hey, listen, let's win this for Patrick. So I'll listen up there.
Rev, I appreciate the phone call, man. 913-3810810. I think it is interesting looking at the last 2 games as opposed to the most recent game, because when we were talking last week, the conversation we had was, not really impressed by what the Bengals did in surviving the Ravens and having a quarterback sneak, a fluky play that was a 14-point swing in a game that you won by a touchdown. You could have been down 7 against the Ravens defense, which you hadn't done much against all game, and then you were going to have to pass the ball, which the Ravens would have known, and then, getting after the quarterback. But crazy things happen, and Huntley reached the ball over for no reason. It wasn't 4th and goal. It was 3rd down, but regardless. And then the Bills and what they did against the Dolphins. Last week, we were having that conversation. And then coming out of yesterday's game, it was, wow, the Bengals dominated the Bills and just freaking beat them down. So I don't think the Bengals are as suspect as it felt last week coming out of the Ravens game. I also don't think they are unbeatable world beaters that went to a team in Buffalo and beat them by 17 points, and that's just who they're going to be week in and week out. I would be shocked if the Bengals come into Kansas City and are the more physical team, or at least are the more physical team to the level that they were over the Bills. The line of scrimmage, they were just punking the Bills, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. Their defensive line was getting after Josh Allen, stopping the run, and their offensive line, that makeshift offensive line, was pushing the Bills' front around all game. Joe Mixon was finishing runs heavy, picking up 3 or 4 yards. And the one thing against the Bengals that has been true, was true last year, is true this year, and will be true next year is you'd better tackle. Because if you don't tackle, it's an extra 4 yards here, it's an extra 3 yards there, it's an extra 4 yards here, and the Bills weren't doing a good enough job in open field tackling, and the Chiefs were awful in Cincinnati in tackling, and it felt like that whole game was, every play was like an extra 3 yards. It was so frustrating. Like the Bengals, you stopped them in a 5-yard gain. Oh, wait, nope, that was 8.
And then they've been great at it the last 4 weeks. This is a place that I am nervously, anxiously, mildly optimistic.
Right.
Because I think that is one of the huge, often underrated parts of this funny game where the football isn't round. It's that sometimes it's as simple as they have the ball, you have your space. How far are you going to let them get through you? And if the Chiefs actually can be a better tackling, better swarming team in space, like we've seen them be over these last 4 games in a row, that's a real pattern now. But they were terrible at it against the Bengals. So is it more about Cincy and how good they are at it, or is it more about the Chiefs' growth over this last extra quarter or so of the season? I'm optimistic about that one specific little angle, but you couldn't ask for a tougher test than the Bengals.
Trying to find the play that was made. Oh, man. It was in the second half. The Bengals had the ball. And there was a pass over the middle, and it would have been a first down, only I believe it was Jalen Watson, it might have been L'Jarius Sneed, that squared up the receiver.
Yeah.
And made the play, and it was 2 yards short, and they end up either punting or having to kick the field goal. And I'm mad that I cannot find it, and it's very annoying. But to your point, it was open field, it was 1-on-1, and 2 yards away from a first down, and the Chiefs are the ones that made the play.
This one was back right before the end of the first half, but I have one here.
Yep, there it is.
The blitz didn't quite get to Lawrence. He got it to Christian Kirk, but Jalen Watson makes a great open field tackle, and that was enormous.
Yep,
another example of where the cornerbacks have ended up there, and they end up forcing the field goal at the end of the half.
2nd down and 6.
Yep.
It was the 4-yard pass, and Jalen Watson was running to Christian Kirk in the open field and breaks down and squares him up.
Yeah.
Not only does he just make the tackle, he squares Kirk up. Like he knew whatever the move number 13 was going to make at that point.
Yep.
35 was there and squares him up and made the tackle. And then also on 3rd down and 2, you got to make a play. And they did.
Yep.
And the ball was a little low from Trevor Lawrence, but that happens.
Nick Bolton was right there. I'll give him credit for it.
Absolutely.
And now all of a sudden, you've got 30 seconds left on 4th and 2, and even a team that's more aggressive like the Jags, 31 seconds, 2 timeouts. They could have gone for that, but you don't have as much time as you'd like to work with there. And ultimately, Jalen Watson's tackle there saves you potentially 4 points right before the half in a game where there were some incredibly close Agnew-esque moments in the second half that we're going to swing the game one way or the other.
That's right. Let's go to Nama next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Chiefs win 27-20. Get ready for the Bengals. What's on your mind?
Hey, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Well, let me start real quick. Let me just give you a little bit history about me. I'm originally from Nigeria. When I came to this country, when I came to Kansas City, my uncle was a big Chiefs fan, and he always watched the Chiefs then. That's like 20 years ago. And each time he watches the game, he curses, he's so pissed. I'm like, come on, why do you keep watching those guys if they make you this pissed off, So right now, I kind of understand what the deal is because I understand football. So I love the Chiefs, I love the Chiefs so much, But I'm going to say this. As far as I love Patrick Mahomes, and everybody does. And I know a lot of Chiefs fans are going to get up near that, but we watched the game on Saturday, and my problem with Patrick Mahomes is sometimes he has a clean pocket, All you have to do is hang it in the pocket and find somebody and throw the ball to. I watched Joe Burrow too. I see the way he plays his game, So many times I see him in an open, like a clean pocket, and he tries to run around, And that's what I don't understand. I don't know if I see the game differently from other people, but, hanging there for a bit, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, just 2, 3 seconds or 1.5 seconds, you will find somebody, So that running around, I don't really understand why he does that. But hey, maybe I don't know much about football, but, that's my big observation. And another quick thing I want to say. Last year when we played the divisional round in Kansas City, first quarter, first half, Patrick Mahomes was great. Second half, how did we lose the game? Because Patrick Mahomes started running around. I see when sometimes we have 3 people rushing, like, come on, you have 3 people rushing and we have 5 people or 4 people blocking, stand one place, go forward, go backwards, go forward, go backwards. You don't have to go left and right, running around trying to find somebody. Trust me, if you do that, somebody will pop open. So if he does that on Sunday or whenever we're playing them again, I'm sorry, guys, it's over. If he keeps running around, because that's exactly what the Bengals want him to do. If he can stay in the pocket, manage the pocket like we know Patrick Mahomes can do, and be patient, we're going to win that game convincingly. But I'm just really worried. That's all I got to say. Thank you, guys. You guys do a good job. I listen to you guys every time I get a chance, and beautiful. Heads up. You guys are good. Go Chiefs.
Nama, thank you for the phone call, man. I appreciate it and the kind words. Patrick Mahomes is not a perfect quarterback. He is human. And I think that is one of the criticisms that people have had about Patrick Mahomes. And I think it even happened in the game against the Bengals. Or, excuse me, against the Jags on Saturday, that there were some pockets that were left early, some clean pockets. The jump pass to MVS, he didn't have to run forward. It was a clean pocket. He could have sat there and waited. Instead, he almost created the pressure in the jump pass to MVS. And I don't know, maybe he created the angle to get the ball to MVS by running forward. But it is something that he does, and it's one of the reasons why, Travis earlier had said, is there a chance that maybe the injury creates a different game plan where there's almost less of that? Yeah, I think there was less of that from Mahomes after the injury. That's still going to happen. And again, I think it comes back to the trust, or maybe lack thereof, that when he sees the jersey of the other team to his left, he's bailing. Even if Orlando Brown, the one that was the incomplete and he pump faked it or he stopped the throw and it slipped out of his hands and it was incomplete. Even on that one, it was a clean pocket. But if you watch it again, I think it was Arden Key, gets around the edge on Orlando Brown. And as soon as Mahomes sees the jersey, he starts stepping up. But Orlando Brown ends up beating him to the spot and actually walling him off. And so it was a good block, and it was creating the pocket. But Mahomes had already seen out of the corner of his eye that jersey and started to run forward. And when that happens, then there's no stopping and setting. Then it's I'm running forward either into the pressure and getting hit, or I'm running and trying to pick up a first down. But I've now created what was a clean pocket into I've got a second and a half to figure out where I'm going to throw this football while I'm running. I just think it starts from a lack of trust that's there. And I think what he has to do in this game is I think there has to be just a feeling of I trust Orlando Brown's going to get the job done. I've got to stay in the pocket. I've got to deliver the ball. And I think some of that might be game planned into the offense by Andy Reid. Andy Reid knows that he does that. And by the way, Patrick Mahomes knows that he does that.
That's right. I think it's twofold. I think the first thing, the exact phrase that popped in my head was trust issues. That's the main one. And we've seen him deal with that not just from the left tackle position, but across the board. It's easier from the right tackle spot because if Andrew Wiley loses outside, Mahomes can just run straight ahead, basically. You can really survey your space. It's easy for him to sprint out right. We've seen him in the past, not much recently, it seems, which is a good thing. We've seen him bail backwards out of pockets because the interior isn't giving him room to step up. That was part of the logic for why you pay Joe Thuney the way you pay him and the draft pick on Creed Humphrey. And the other thing is that sometimes whenever you do see him, bail through a gap in the line, that's when the greatest highlight plays you've ever seen in your entire natural life show up, and you go, oh yeah, well, Mahomes can do that. And I don't think anybody is saying that he shouldn't do that at all, but especially now on a bum ankle, it's can you figure out the balance? And I think this is going to be really the story of the middle third of Patrick Mahomes' career, if I had to put money on it. Let's say it's 15 years. And I think we'd probably take that. If he wants to play for 20, I'd sign up for it now. But we got these 5. I think the next 5 years are going to be the evolution of Mahomes trusting the clean pocket and feeling that a little more and being more comfortable there when he has the time. We've seen him grow as a pocket passer tremendously to this point in his career, to be fair. And then still mixing in when he escapes to make the big plays. And then the back third of his career, back quarter of his career, whenever that ends up coming, is probably going to be a lot more of a stationary quarterback than we see him be right now. That evolution is going to be a process, but I absolutely think that in this game in particular, especially if Lou Anarumo is throwing him some junk looks that end up being three-man pressures, look, man, if Orlando Brown and Andrew Wiley and the guys on the interior can't figure out how to pass off a three-man pressure to give you time, it'll be a really frustrating way for the season to end, but you'll have two new tackles next year because you have to be able to win those matchups. And frankly, I do think Orlando Brown and Andrew Wiley and those interior guys can do that, but it's going to be really under a spotlight this weekend.
I don't think the offensive line played all that bad in the game.
Yep, they had some bad moments.
They had bad
big consequences.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the two short yardage situations that Steve brought up earlier, that
tough.
3rd down and 1 and the quarterback sneak or the Noah Gray sneak, you can't pick that up.
Yep.
And then 3rd down and 1 after the Agnew fumble, in which you've got complete control of the game, you're up by 10, you're trying to run out the clock, and it's 3rd and 1, and Pacheco gets hit a yard behind the line of scrimmage. He breaks the tackle and tries to pick up but even after breaking that tackle and slipping through, again, he was hit a yard deep. You got to now pick up 2 yards after that. And he stopped, and then they punt the ball. I mean, those are 2 punts on 3rd and short that if this offensive line that is so good, how can it not pick up those short yardage situations? And it's been an issue all year. They're one of the worst in 3rd and short teams. And in a game against the Bengals, when you don't have Mahomes being the highlight reel that he typically is, or if you don't have Mahomes being the highlight reel that he typically is of moving around, you better convert on those 3rd and shorts. And I don't know what they're going to end up doing, what they're going to look like. But in this game, there was one of the few 5-step drops out of the shotgun that he had after the injury, and it was coupled with the Jags bringing only 3 guys, and that was the long play to Noah Gray. 5-step drop out of the shotgun, then dropped 5 steps. They brought 3. He sat there, looked at it, waited for the handoff. Jags came up, fires it to Noah Gray, wide open. And he was wide open because Mahomes sat there and waited for the play to develop. If he would have just said, I got to get out of here, then is he seeing the handoff that doesn't actually happen?
I thought of you on that play because, that's the Jalen Hurts rep. That's the thing we've been lusting after for this entire season.
Yeah, and they brought 3. And that was it. And Mahomes sat there because the one thing that the Bengals were doing when they dropped 8 is they kind of dropped 7, brought 3, and then Hubbard was kind of a spy. He wasn't rushing. He wasn't in coverage. He was kind of just there watching wherever Mahomes goes. And then Mahomes sometimes would run into pressure, and then Hubbard would be there to make the tackle. Or at times, Mahomes would sit there and look, nobody was open, and then Hubbard would say, now I'm going to go. It's like he counted to 5 Mississippi before he was able to blitz or pressure. Let's go to Amos next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Amos, what's on your mind, sir?
I hope that he gets all the treatment, and I think that the team needs to rally around Mahomes for one. Like, he pulls them. I think they need a Tampa Bay game. I don't know what week that was, but I think Andy Reid, the coaching staff, everybody, I think they needed an FU game, like what we always talk about. That's my opinion. Because if we don't win this, I think the narrative of us being at the top of the food chain in the AFC goes away. That's my opinion as a Chiefs fan.
Amos,
and quite frankly, it sucks if that's what happens because they're punking us 3 times in a row now. And I don't want to be punked no more. So I hope we get off the punking list. And listen to you guys off the air.
Amos, I appreciate the phone call. I think the winner on Sunday is the best team in the AFC. I don't think there's any debating it. If the Bengals win on Sunday, they're the class of the AFC. They would have gone to back-to-back Super Bowls, and they would have beaten the Chiefs 4 straight times in the last 2 years. If the Chiefs win, it would be they avenged the loss last year. They got back to the Super Bowl. They have now been to 3 of the last 4 Super Bowls and beat the team that was ascending to be the best team in the AFC. That is the best challenger to the Chiefs. Or maybe you can say the Chiefs are the challenger this year specifically to the Bengals because the Bengals are the reigning AFC champs. But whoever wins this game, to me, is the class of the AFC moving forward until proven otherwise in the playoffs because it would be back-to-back years for the Bengals. And the Chiefs went to back-to-back Super Bowls. They won one of them. So if the Bengals go and win the Super Bowl, they win on Sunday and win the Super Bowl, then you're talking about they're in the mode of where the Chiefs were in 2018, 19, and on into 20, where they were the class and everybody was trying to catch them. A Bengals win on Sunday would be where the Chiefs were earlier, with a cheap quarterback, with playmakers, with a much better defense, let's be honest, with what the Bengals have. That is the difference between Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow over these couple of years versus Patrick Mahomes' first couple, 3 years in the NFL is Burrow has a really good defense that he doesn't have to also try to overcome while winning games, where Mahomes is feeling like he's always had to try to overcome that particular defense. But Amos is right. This is the game to where you rally around Mahomes and you say, he saved our ass so many times.
Yep.
It's time for us to save his ass and not have him feel like he has to be Superman in this game.
And we saw at least a little bit of that in the second half against the Jags. The defense needed to go from don't bleep anything up mode to go bleep them up mode.
Yeah.
And they were able to do that with, it wasn't a ton of turnovers, a ton of sacks, super flashy. It was a lot of keeping the Jags in front of them. The rest of the offense needed to do that. They needed to keep Mahomes upright as they continued to blitz and try to create those extra pressures. They did that. You had playmakers like Isaiah Pacheco and Travis Kelce. That's his full name. Travis Kelce. It's 3 names. All of those guys and those different sides of the ball, even on special teams, narrowly avoiding disasters on the kick returns. No issues when the Chiefs were kicking. Hey, you know what? I guess I'll take it because Harrison Butker used his head when he needed to on a tackle, which isn't ideal.
Harrison Butker was huge. Big field goals and a big tackle.
Enormous. But you did see the rest of the team do a little bit of that in the second half against the Jags. It's going to have to be 2 or 3-fold that effort against the Bengals, though. Amos is right.
Travis Kelce, just as Sham God.
That's right.
So, kind of in the same realm there.
He had more than half of the team's completions. That's buck wild. That should be impossible. He had 14 receptions. The Chiefs had 27 completions.
And all that talk about truck nuts, the Jags did not overcompensate for the fact that they suck against tight ends.
No, they didn't.
They did not overcompensate for that. And the Chiefs tight ends went off in this game. Mainly Kelce, but you can also throw in a little Noah Gray in that. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue with your phone calls next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I didn't realize this until looking and spending a lot of time just staring into the abyss and trying to, figure out what it all means.
Hey, that's what I did last night, too.
Yes.
Nothing to do with sports.
That's right.
Just staring into the abyss, trying to figure out what it all means.
Yes, that's right. You had a gummy. I was looking at Pro Football Reference. We had a different experience.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Josh Brisco, Beards. Heading up until 2 o'clock. 913-810-810 is the phone number. Looking at the line movement for this game, sort of depending on where you place your wagers at, and mine is at DraftKings, but I never saw at DraftKings when the Chiefs were the underdogs. They were always favored. But there are a couple of places that I think the Sports Illustrated has the Chiefs at one point yesterday. They were 1.5-point dogs.
Ooh.
The line moved from 3.5, 3, 2.5, 2.5, 2.5 to 3.5 down to Chiefs plus 1.5. It's a 4-point swing. So, from 3.5 to Chiefs plus 1.5 at different places. Bet Online had the Chiefs as a 1-point dog for about 10 minutes.
I think it was our dearly beloved at DraftKings who were basically the first ones to get a line out there.
Yeah.
And so in the moments from the Chiefs from the Bengals essentially clinching the game, the over-under moved down from 52.5 to 47.5 in less than 30 minutes. The Chiefs moved from -3 to -1 in about 20 minutes, and then it kind of settled at -1.5. Now it's back at 1 again. Right now, the over-under is at 47 after opening at 52.5. And on the DraftKings has the little percentages of bets placed drop down.
Yeah.
And as of about 5:40 yesterday, it's even out a little bit, but just to illustrate where we were at, 92% of money line bets were on the Bengals. They're getting plus money there. Even once they got to just the Bengals +1, the money line was +100. Right now, both teams are negative money to win by the money line. And this is percent of bets placed, not total money. So I'm guessing that, $10 bets carry 10 times as much weight as $1,000 bet would. But 77% of the bets on the Bengals against the spread, 92% of the bets on the Bengals money line. Just a fascinating show of basically, as far as I can tell, the public being more worried about Patrick Mahomes' ankle than the bookmakers were, which is an interesting way of framing that.
Or you have the two games that you come out of the Chiefs winning by 7 against the Jags and the Bengals dominating the Bills.
True. So that's true.
Those two things combined, and the Bengals being 3-0 with Joe Burrow against Patrick Mahomes, it's now down a little bit. 85% of the money line is on the Bengals. 76% of the spread is on Bengals as it stands right now, +1 at DraftKings.
And I just haven't touched it yet.
No, I haven't either.
I don't know. Like, we've talked about this already a few times, but we don't know if Patrick Mahomes is walking today. I mean, but that doesn't make me want to jump on the Bengals either, because this game feels like a 1-point sort of spread, and then anything crazy could happen on Sunday.
So, according to Bet Online, it opened at KC -2.5, went to KC -2, then -1.5, then a huge movement to Cincinnati -1. A few minutes later, it jumped back to KC -1. So there was a few minutes where the Bengals were favored by a point in this one. So big movement back and forth yesterday, and I think that'll be the case all week. Let's go to Ryan next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Ryan, what's on your mind? Go right ahead.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Doing just fine, man. Hope you're doing well.
Doing all right. Hey, I don't really agree with the first guy that called in. He said something about we need a dynamic receiver. Didn't Mahomes break the all-time record for the most yards in a season by a quarterback?
I believe that was the stat that was out there.
Yeah, and he also threw to 8 or 9 receivers this year for a touchdown.
I think
that was a thing too, right?
Yeah, that was a thing.
Okay, yeah. So, also, did you guys see what Mahomes tweeted out yesterday?
The clock emoji?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. That was right as the Bengals were clinching. Patrick Mahomes tweeted out just the alarm clock emoji.
Exactly.
What's that? What does that mean?
It's time.
Oh, okay.
He knows what time it is. It's business. He knows who's coming to town, so he'll be ready to go. If he's limping in there, limping out, whatever the case may be, he's going to be ready to go.
Oh, yeah, he'll play.
And if you don't think Andy Reid's not going to have a perfect game plan to dominate on Sunday, you're out of your mind. So we're going back to the Super Bowl, boys, and I will be calling back on Monday to tell you I told you so, and I'll listen off the air.
Ryan, I cannot wait for that phone call. I promise you, I cannot wait for that phone call, man. 913-381-0810. There are going to be a lot of players this week that are going to be at the podium, okay, because it's championship week. And there have been championship weeks in the past. This is the 5th one. But there have been championship weeks in the past in which every single day there was a press conference. The NFL mandated that teams talked every single day, so they didn't take the Tuesday off like they typically would. Every single day there were press conferences. We're under the impression there is going to be a lot more players at the podium this week than there is on a typical week. Here's what I would like to see happen. I want somebody to ask the players, hey, Frank Clark, did you see where the Bengals were selling AFC Championship game tickets to Bengals and Jags? That I guess they just assumed that they were going to win and then the Jags were going to win. Did you see that they were selling the championship game tickets to play at home? What do you guys think about that they were sort of planning already to have a game against the Jags, thinking that you guys were going to lose to the Jags and the Bengals were going to win? Have you seen that? I really want a player to be asked that so badly, to be asked that the Bengals were planning on playing the Jags.
The NFL wanted it. The NFL was selling tickets to Bills Jags. They wanted that game. Hashtag NFL rigged.
I mean, here's the thing. The Chiefs, specifically, they were only selling tickets to the Bengals in the championship at Arrowhead.
That's true. Wow, think about that.
The
Ultimate
Bills,
respect.
The Bills were looking at the Jags. They were looking at, no. The Bengals were all like, we're going to play the Jags. We're going to sell. They sold tickets to the Jags and Bengals AFC Championship game. How does that not piss the Chiefs players off?
Hope they get those refunds.
That is so. Somebody should. Do you think fans got refunds for when they purchased Bengals?
Did Bengals
and Jags?
fans get home game refunds for the game against the Jags that they were selling tickets to? Yes, they did.
Also, Eli Apple, do you know how a refund works?
Eli Apple mostly just steals money, so he might not.
Because they were talking about they were. I appreciate that. They were talking about the refunds. Obviously, that was the thing that all these different players were asked about that. Bengals players after the game were asked about that. And Eli Apple asked about, they had to give the refunds. He goes, everybody lost a lot of money, didn't they? No, they didn't.
No,
it was a refund.
That's not what a refund is, Eli.
That's how it works. It was a refund. Also, pretty disappointed in the Bengals media. Not one time you could have asked somebody and go, well, the Bengals are selling tickets. You guys are selling tickets to the Jags game. They all played into it like they were dumbasses too. Like they're unaware of how playoff ticketing works. Well, what do you guys think? They were selling tickets to the game in Atlanta. What do you guys think about that, huh? That's got to really piss you off. Yeah, it did. It pissed us off. We were mad. Everybody keeps doubting us. We keep ruining their coin flips and fun get-togethers in Hotlanta.
I thought Zach Taylor's was inbounds, actually. I thought Zach Taylor's was fair.
I did too.
Because that one was kind of snarky and kind of right. That
yes, I'm sorry.
Because that was basically, the Bengals have actually been screwing up the NFL's contingency plans. Like, well, if we need to, we'll flip a coin. Mm-hmm. Well, you don't need to. We'll go ahead and win. If we need to, we'll send them to Atlanta. Well, you don't need to because we're going to be there. That one I actually thought was kind of cool.
Also, you know what else? I just thought about this. A player needs to be asked or told this. Maybe Frank Clark. I don't know. I just feel like that would be.
I think you're on the right track.
I think he would be the fun one to answer it.
I think you're right.
Frank, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but Bengals staff in their organization is already down in Phoenix scouting out hotels, routes to the stadium, to Glendale.
That's a great point.
Where they'll be practicing and everything. Are you guys aware that the Bengals have already sent people to Phoenix to scout for where they're going to be for the Super Bowl?
Frank, are you aware of the fact that currently there is AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals merch being manufactured? What does that do to motivate the team, Frank? They're currently making hats and shirts that say Cincinnati Bengals AFC champions. It's like the NFL's already... Yeah, no, I can't believe it either. No, they're only doing it for them. I'm also just learning about this right now.
They're making AFC championship gear for the Bengals. They were selling last week and the week before Bengals AFC championship game tickets at home. And they have people heading to Phoenix to scout the routes and get everything set for the Bengals Super Bowl. How does that not piss you off, Frank Clark and whoever else? I really want them to be asked because that's as absurd as the whole thing last week. It's all stupid. It's so blown up, and not one and the media in Cincinnati is culpable. They were playing along with it. They were part of the pump up crew. They were the entourage behind the star. Yeah. No, you're really good. Yeah, go get them. Ooh, did you know they're selling tickets down to Atlanta? Yes, we know that, and they're also selling tickets for the Chiefs against the Bengals. You dumbass. Can we play Hayden Hurst real quick? I do want to play this because speaking of dumbass, let's play. Is
this Tyler Higbee again?
This is it's an H. It starts with an H. Let's play the Hayden Hurst was asked about ticket sales.
We just love being counted out. They thought our offensive line was going to be our Achilles heel, and they went out today and dominated, selling tickets to a game that wasn't even set. We're not stupid. We see all that stuff, and that's just how this team is wired. We take that stuff personal, and then you still got to play the game. All that stuff is great, but you got to still play us, and that's the mindset this team has, and we're going to continue taking it on to Kansas City.
We're not stupid. We see all the stuff that's going on with ticket sales of games that aren't even set yet. We're not dumb. We're not stupid. We see everything. You think we don't see all these different things that's going on down in Atlanta? All these playoff tickets for games that haven't even happened yet? We're not dumb. Don't think we're stupid. We know what's going on.
We're intentionally misunderstanding all of this.
Yeah.
This is disingenuous because we get it. Wait a second. Hold on.
We're not stupid. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More so next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
You could have also gone.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
We'll talk with Field Yates coming up at noon. Andy Reid about 12:30 or so. Storyteller next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Storyteller, go right ahead, sir. What's on your mind?
Gentlemen, always a pleasure. The last 3 weeks of the season, I wanted to brag on Pacheco about joining Gas Ayers and Walter Payton as rookies who had 600 yards rushing, 600 yards on kickoffs, but they stopped kicking to him and stopped having them return from deep in the end zone.
Which I'm fine with.
If you notice, the Bengals, they like kicking to the guys. So are the Chiefs going to have another person back with him, or how are they going to handle that?
No, I think the Storyteller appreciates the phone call. I think they'll have Pacheco back there. And I would like them to kick it in the end zone every time. And by the way, I think there is more of an edict of you let the ball go in the end zone if it's over. Pacheco was standing at the goal line, and there was one kickoff that it looked like he was going to return, and he then stuck his arm straight out with the fist, and the ball landed like right over his head. He could have taken one step backwards, caught it, and ran it out from 1.5 yards deep in the end zone. But he let it go, and they got it at the 25-yard line. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think there's been hey, if it's short, return the ball. If not, we're taking it at the 25. Because, damn it, maybe Tobe isn't saying this, but damn it, we're not good enough to block and to get out to the 25 and to have a 26 or 27-yard return if we're taking that out from 2 yards deep, just to simply get to where we would be if you didn't return it at all. And, oh, by the way, might be a penalty on that as well. Now, I would also like Harrison Butker to boot the damn thing into the stands.
I got something where I know we're on the same page, and then something where I wonder if I might be able to budge you just a tiny bit. The one we're on the same page is what you just said.
Kick it through the uprights every time?
Especially if you've got a kick returner who's back there like actively making plays over the course of the entirety of the season. And frankly, I'm guessing here, we'll find out on Thursday, I'm guessing that's not on Harrison Butker's leg. I'm guessing that's what he was told to do. Because Harrison Butker can kick it through the uprights from the kickoff every time.
That's what Tobe has told us. He could put it through the end zone every time if they wanted to.
I am shocked that they continued to kick it there, to kick it short and entice a return. On the other side, I've been with you on the kick returns this year. I wonder if there's a time to say, and still, put your feet on the goal line. If it goes over your head, cool. But if like Storyteller says, if the Bengals like to go ahead and force a return, Pacheco being back there to be the guy, he should be the kick return guy. And if there's going to be a time when the offense might be willing to sacrifice 5 yards of field position for a 5% shot at a big play, it might be when you do not know how physically gifted your quarterback is going to be in one bum leg. This might be the time where you say, you know what, Isaiah Pacheco in space, and frankly, I think I have a larger appetite for the kick return attempts than I do the punt return attempts because they're a little less questionable on the fielding. Typically, you don't see as many muffed kick returns as you do muffed punts. I think it should be Pacheco. Having Jerick McKinnon still get so many snaps means Pacheco can do both. He probably won't be out there on first down that next rep or whatever. But I do think put your feet on the goal line. If it goes over your head, we don't need you trying to make miracles happen. But I'll be kind of excited to see Pacheco, hopefully, with the ball in his hands in space a couple of times.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Tony back there to return a kick.
Sure.
Or two,
yeah, hey, you know what? Why not? That's a good point.
If they're kicking it short and they're saying, okay, we know they're going to do that, let's put our best returner back there and see what he can do. They clearly like him in punt returns. Knock on wood, I've had more confidence in the punt return the last...
Knock on this wood right now!
Sorry.
Knock on this wood! Thank you.
The last couple of weeks, and Tony got knocked out of bounds on the sideline, and had he got past that guy, and he was mad. He got up and he, tossed the football on the ground, and he was mad because if he had just slipped past that guy who got his shoulder and then he went out of bounds, the cutback was there, and there were like 3 Chiefs blockers in front of him. There have been a couple plays where he's almost broken one. That could be the difference on Sunday if given the chance. Field Yates next.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Took Jason an hour and 40 minutes to find the stats, 2.5 hours to tell the story.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Josh Brisco, Beards, heading up until 2 o'clock. We'll hear from Andy Reid coming up later on this hour. Mick Shaffer at 1 o'clock. Learn Funniest Best, all still to come. Let's talk some NFL football with our NFL insider from ESPN. Field Yates joins us here in the Zone. Field, how are you, sir?
What's going on, Jason? How are you?
I am doing just fine. I appreciate you joining us as always. Let's start off with just your reaction, your takeaway from the Chiefs beating the Jags 27-20, and it is ankle watch day 1, Field.
Yeah. Hey, you know what, Jason? Not fun for the team. Really good for sports radio, though, right? I mean, you've got fodder for the entire week. Whether they could be playing like a 7-on-7 team, like made up of like 18-year-olds, and they were going to smoke by 100 points, and you still have something to talk about. Obviously, the matchup with the Bengals in and of itself certainly gives you plenty of storylines. But, yeah, it's going to be a long week. I realized once again that I think I follow like 1,500 people on Twitter, and 1,475 of them are world-renowned ankle specialists. So I know exactly what's going on with Patrick Mahomes. I know exactly what percent effectiveness he'll be at come Sunday afternoon.
How many Field Yates is our guest? When Patrick Mahomes went down, I talked about in the beginning of the show, Field, that I had the angel and the devil on my shoulders. The devil was saying, "Play, keep him in, keep playing, no matter what, just play." This you got a chance to go to the Super Bowl if he has to hobble around for the next 3 games. I don't care, play. And the angel was like, "Hey, you got 15 years. Hey, take it easy. This is 1 year." It's you don't want to hurt that ankle long term. What if it's broken? What if there's something going on? You don't want to have to turn into chronic injury. You don't want to be saying, boy, that looking back, his what Mahomes' career has been since that ankle injury has been, that Steph Curry-esque type deal. And so that was the feeling I had, and I related it to Andy Reid. And I said, maybe all 32 coaches, Field, would do this, would do the same thing and go, sorry, stud, star, MVP, I know you want to play, but I'm taking you out of this game that's 10-7 in the divisional round with the other team getting the ball. And that's, just beat the Chargers by scoring 28 points more than them in the second half. I'm taking you out, and you got to go get x-rays and go get figured out, even though you say you can play and you're ready to go. Maybe all 32 coaches would do that. But I would be shocked if all 32, because typically in the NFL, my guy says, I'm ready to go, I can play, I'm playing through it, I'm the quarterback, I'm the star. How many guys step in and go, no, you're not playing, go get x-rays?
Yeah, we're projecting here because obviously only one coach experienced this
Absolutely.
Saturday. And while other coaches have experienced something close, we would, I don't know that every single coach has experienced something of quite this magnitude. But here's what I would say. Is that I do think part of this is in part related, or part of this is tied to context, right? Like, this is the 5th straight AFC Championship game the Chiefs will now host. They've obviously won one Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes as their quarterback, and Andy Reid is a legendary NFL coach. Like, he doesn't have to worry about his place in history. It is really, really, really well settled. I mean, the only place he can go is further up. So part of me, the reason why I mention all of this is that, it's easier for Andy Reid to put his foot down in a circumstance like this and see the bigger picture than it might be for somebody else. And I'm not saying that makes the job of Andy Reid easy in general. I just think that he has got more cachet to turn to Patrick and say, you're not going back in the game right now. Not to get that x-ray done and we figure out whether there's anything broken in there. And if there isn't, we can have a conversation about the second half. But for now, you're not playing. If this was a coach who either was under a different amount of pressure because the team had not met expectations previously, or a coach who hadn't won a Super Bowl, or a quarterback who was in his veteran years who hadn't yet won a Super Bowl, this is their last best chance, maybe the dynamic is different. And again, I'm still projecting here, but I do feel like what the Chiefs have right now, which should not be taken for granted, is that you have a track record of success. And while nothing is given in the NFL, you have a pretty clear picture that as long as number 15 is your quarterback going forward, he is going to give you basically a walking playoff ticket. and in many years, if not every year of his starting tenure, a walking ticket to the AFC Championship game. So I did think the circumstances kind of aligned, and it was the right people in place to make the decision to not even think about putting him back in until at least an X-ray were done.
Yeah, it's Joe Burrow verbalized it, but I think a lot of people feel that when he was asked about the playoff window, and he was like, "For my career, that's the window is my career." And the same thing with Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs, Super Bowl window is Patrick Mahomes, and yeah, I also wonder, and this is just speculation. I wonder how much Mahomes may have felt like, okay, this ankle injury is a little different than I've had because I don't want to go back and get X-rays because I don't want to know the result. I don't want to know because he said, he gave a prayer when the X-rays were going on. He said a prayer that please come back negative. And that kind of tells me that, because the Jags game, he had that in 2019, but he never went back and got X-rays. They taped it up. He was hobbled, and he was hobbled the next couple of weeks. But it wasn't to that extent to where they're like, you got to go get X-rays right now because this is a little worse. And him to say, it might be something to where I might be done for the year, that I don't want to go back and get X-rays because I don't want to know the result. And I'm worried to the point that I'm saying a prayer while I'm sitting here waiting for the result of the X-rays to come back. So I don't know if that means that it's tougher this week or not. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he knows. He's no dummy. He knows the magnitude of this, right? He knows that the minute he leaves that game, you've got Vegas shifting lines and people wondering whether, hey, even if the Chiefs win today, is it just basically winning for the right to lose to the Bengals or Bills winner next week? I mean, there was a ton at stake there when Patrick had his ankle rolled up. He gets it, but it was great to see that during that day he was able to find a way to persevere through the pain. And I think the big storyline now is, and this is probably speaking the obvious to your audience, but I don't think anybody expects him to not play next week, right? Yeah. If he was able to come back and play on Saturday, then you expect him to be out there this upcoming Sunday. The question is just, what kind of effect does it have on him and the offense? I went back and watched the second half of that game when he came back in, and 0 move-the-pocket throws from Patrick Mahomes. As you and everybody else who listens to this knows, I mean, he's just terrific throwing on the run, and everything was just a straight drop back, a lot of three-step drop, because the more time that he is in the pocket, the more vulnerable he is to getting hit or having to break through pressure and try to scramble. And all those things are probably, 10 times, if not more, harder to do with a bum ankle. So I think that's the big question mark for this Sunday is how, is he 75%? Is he 95%? Is he 50%? And obviously that's going to have a dramatic impact on the outcome of this game.
Yeah, the part about, just the game plan and moving the pocket. Like, he led the league in yards from passes outside the pocket. He didn't throw one when he got injured, so it's obviously different there. Do you expect that to be part of the game plan then this weekend, that it will be – I know somebody has said, do they go back to the sort of Alex Smith game plan and offense rather than the Patrick Mahomes offense if he is limited? Do you think there's going to be for lack of a better term, more extreme adjustment of a game plan from one game to the next based on Mahomes' ankle than there would be just in general?
So I'm going to put this out there. This is one of my favorite, and by favorite, I mean least favorite parts of sports media, is the people that are going to sit here and tell you, this is how the Chiefs should or will play offense on Sunday. So this is my guess. My guess is that a high ankle sprain, which there's been multiple reports, including Adam Schefter, saying that he's got a high ankle sprain, typically does not get dramatically better from 1 week to the next. It's probably good enough for him to play, as we've established already. He's expected to be out there on Sunday, but my guess is that how he feels at the beginning of the game is going to be very different than how he feels a quarter into the game, and if he takes one hit. So here's my expectation, is the Chiefs, this is my guess, I should say guess, not even expectation, is the Chiefs will be very smart and diplomatic if they are going to have him throw on the run. The more he throws on the run, the more he just gets out in pocket in general, less likely he is to hold up for the entirety of the game. And he may have a different warm-up before the game. You may see a different play-calling strategy. Nothing would surprise me because I just don't imagine there's any scenario where he is 100% come Sunday. Even if he feels pretty good going into the game, they understand it's not load management. It's just how do you manage pain over the course of 3 hours and 10 minutes?
Field Yates is our guest. He had 8 passes before the injury in which he got the ball in shotgun and then dropped 5 more steps. So 8 times, that was one of the play calls, or at least the depth in the drop. After the injury, he did that 3 more times the rest of the game. And so
totally different.
Absolutely. It was completely different. And how do you how do you think that impacts on Sunday? I mean, I know that it's like game plan this, game plan that, but when you've got Lou Anarumo, and I think part of what the Bengals did a year ago was play to the weakness of Patrick Mahomes in that he wants to get outside the pocket, he wants to create, he wants to go and do some of those things that are off schedule. And when they drop 8 and say, we're going to keep you in the pocket and drop everybody, and we don't think you're going to be patient enough before you start running into pressure, I wonder what Lou Anarumo is going to be doing with the unknown of, do they do the game plan they had in the second half? Do they come out and run the regular game plan? How do we adjust to that? Because there is an unknown, and I think there's a slight chance that it could be turned into a positive in that if the Chiefs simply say, here's our offense, and Patrick, you're working from the pocket, you're reading the defense, working from the pocket, and this is what we're going to do against this Bengals team, and it works against a team that maybe is wanting Patrick Mahomes to get outside the pocket and use some of his weaknesses against him.
Yeah, the good news for the Chiefs is that it's not like Patrick is ineffective when you tell him you have to play from the pocket, right? He showed it on Saturday as he continued to play at a high level given the circumstances. And my guess for the Bengals, and this is kind of how coaches always default, is they assume Patrick Mahomes is going to be 100% healthy and as capable as he always is moving on the run. It's like when you hear that, down the stretch, every team that played the Ravens say, we're planning for Lamar Jackson, even though it became clearer and clearer by the day that they weren't going to see Lamar Jackson, right? It's like, well, you hear things like, the offense hasn't changed that much when Lamar Jackson's not in there. It's like, yeah, you're right. I mean, someone like, the best running quarterback of all time, so it can't be that much different, right? So my expectation for the Bengals is that I'll say, hey, we're going to plan on Patrick Mahomes being able to move the pocket and being able to, do things as he always has done and probably always will be able to do when he's healthy. And it's easier to kind of condense the playbook in the other way where, hey, if he can't do all that stuff, it's easier for us to adjust in that regard than the inverse. So my guess is the Bengals will be preparing as if Patrick Mahomes is healthier than ever and ready to go out there and, play from shotgun and drop back and then subsequently scramble every single snap.
Field Yates is our guest from ESPN NFL Insider. What do you think of this Bengals team? Struggled against the Ravens and obviously a big, huge swinging play, 14 points with the fumble return for a touchdown against the Ravens. And then, to me, that was just complete and total domination over the Bills. They were the more aggressive team. They controlled the line of scrimmage. So what do you make of this Bengals team now that, 1 week struggled against the Ravens and the next week just looked like world beaters?
Yeah, terrific. They're really good. As I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
Ravens, I would not quite go as far as kryptonite, but when you see a team twice a year, every year, you just have a better feel for them, right? It's just natural that you can sort of take away a little bit of what they do well and highlight some of your strengths when you see them as frequently as the Ravens do. And by the way, it kind of became a non-story with everything else going on with Lamar Jackson. But the Ravens were playing absolutely lights-out defense in the last half. They were just terrific. So I chalked some of their struggles in that first week up to playing a team that was so good defensively. And also, you and I talked about emotional energy all the time with the Chiefs because they have, they like seemingly never cover, and it's always closer than you expect it to be. I think part of that played into the Bengals-Ravens games down in both Week 18 and then the wild card round. It's just different when you're getting up for an Anthony Brown-led Ravens team than Lamar Jackson. But we saw it yesterday. They're completely fearless, right?
Yeah.
Their new line is they got to play us, right? I don't know how new it is, but that's their mentality is that the Chiefs got to play us, right? Because they're as talented in terms of wide receivers as there is in the NFL right now. The offensive line was terrific yesterday, allowed just 1 sack. They have been really good protecting Joe Burrow this year with some moving pieces around the offensive line. I don't know if any of those, or if either of the 2 guys that got hurt recently, either Alex Kappa or Jonah Williams will be available come Sunday, but both players who the team made a major investment in. Kaplan free agency, Williams is a first-round pick. So they're really good. And then defensively, the name Lou Anarumo has probably been discussed as much as any defensive coordinator in the NFL that isn't getting any head coaching looks this year.
Ridiculous.
He is very, very good. And Chiefs fans know this, right? I mean, they've played him recently a lot, and it hasn't gone well.
The sort of mindsets leading into this game and perception around, what this game is, and obviously it's a legacy game. It's, whether Joe Burrow and the Bengals can go 4-0 against the Chiefs, or do the Chiefs get the Bengals back and it's just simply 1-1 in the playoffs, whether there's a couple regular season games, doesn't matter, 1-1 in the playoffs in a championship game. It feels like throughout last year, certainly, and then at times this year, and I think even heading into that Bills game, where the Bengals may have felt like, when you talk about the motto, they have to play us, that they're the ones that feel like everybody looks at them as swimming upstream to try to catch the best teams in the AFC, that they're the ones still trying to get there, and everybody else is already at the top of or the Chiefs and Bills are at the top of the mountain, Chiefs certainly there. And so they're trying to get over that hump, even though they're the reigning AFC champions. Have they surpassed that now, or have they gotten over the hump to where the Bengals are no longer viewed as swimming upstream? Because it kind of feels like, I don't know what the line's going to be when this game kicks off, but the feel I have early on is that this is the Bengals heading into Kansas City and beating the Chiefs and heading back to the Super Bowl, and it's the Chiefs almost now looking up at the Bengals and trying to reestablish themselves as the best in the AFC.
I think there's a chance that if that happens again, then we would have that conversation. And it would remind me a bit of sort of like early Indianapolis Colts, New England Patriots with Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, because the Patriots, even if they had occasional hiccups in the regular season, like for a while in the playoffs when it mattered most, they had Peyton Manning's number, right? And I'm not saying that anybody necessarily has Patrick Mahomes' number yet, because the losses to Cincinnati have been more shootouts than they have been like defense grinded out kind of games. But there probably is something to be said. I think there probably is something to be said for the mentality that each team would have with a win come Sunday afternoon. I think the reality, though, is that we are in this era right now, and we could be in it for like the next 10 years, where assuming these guys are healthy and assuming they don't change teams, like we're looking at minimum 4 quarterbacks, and maybe the answer is already 5. Like, I expect their team to be good every single year. I think 3 have separated themselves, and Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow and Josh Allen. And if the Bengals go back-to-back, like, I think they probably have a little bit of a mental edge over the Chiefs going into next year. But I don't know that I don't know that they can, like, clearly separate themselves from the field year over year, because these quarterbacks are just so darn good. I mean, they're just unbelievable. Joe Burrow is just a machine right now. So everything you said is fair, but I don't know that I'm not quite ready to make a multi-year sort of takeaway based off what happens on Sunday afternoon.
All right, what do you think happens on Sunday afternoon? No idea what the line is right now. It's bounced around like a pinball.
Yeah, the last I saw was 1.5. Chiefs by 1.5.
Yeah, I think it's at 1.5. The Bengals for like 5 minutes yesterday were a 1-point favorite and a pick'em and all these other things. So Josh tells me it's now down to 1. So Chiefs by 1. So again, it's like a pinball. We'll see how much it happens this entire week. What do you think happens? And if you have an early score thought with the unknown of Patrick Mahomes' health, assuming he would have to be handcuffed to the bench for him to not play.
Yeah, so I think we all assume he'll play. I think the Bengals, though, are equipped to make this happen and go there and win, which I don't know the last time I picked against the Chiefs in the playoffs on this show. So my early lean at this stage of the week is Cincinnati, just because even though Patrick played pretty well in the second half, I just don't know that you can play that kind of offense for 60 minutes for a team that you would presume would have a plan to not allow Travis Kelce to have 14 catches. You would think that Cincinnati would prevent that from happening again. So I'll lean Cincinnati, but this is really close. I think Vegas is wise and basically calling it a pick 'em.
Yep. Do you have a score in mind by any chance?
I'm thinking like 27-23 type thing. Like a bit of defense to keep this from being a real shootout.
Well, 27-24 last year, 27-24 earlier this year. So that would make sense if it's right around there. Field Yates, our NFL insider from ESPN Field, appreciate the time. Thank you, sir, and look forward to our conversation next week. Hopefully we are discussing a date in the Super Bowl with the Chiefs. And you know what, real quick, who do you think wins Eagles and 49ers? I just wanted to get you.
I got the Eagles on Saturday night. I mean, I could be, we'll see. Both two really good defensive teams, but I think Philly finds a way. There's way too much offensive horse. What's the word I'm looking for? Firepower was what I was looking for. Not horsepower, but horsepower would have worked.
You know what? Both of them. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Field, you're the man. Appreciate it, sir.
All right. Talk to you one way or another next week.
Absolutely. There's Field Yates from ESPN, our NFL insider. And look, I'm not surprised. I think that it's probably going to be the majority of people taking the Bengals to win this thing. I mean, we've seen the bets already at 85% of the money line bets at DraftKings are on the Bengals. I'm curious to see on Sunday with the pregame leading into Chiefs and Bengals what the bottom of the screen looks like with all the predictions when they go around the room and they pick who's going to win, if it's just a Bengals logo across the board or if there are some Chiefs picks in that. And certainly there will be a lot of eyes on the warm-ups on Sunday to see what Patrick Mahomes looks like while he's out there, how he's moving and things like that. There'll be a lot of eyes on that. But I have a feeling that the majority of America and the analysts are saying this is the coronation of Cincinnati becoming the team in the AFC.
I do wonder, because you mentioned this back in one of the previous conversations we were having about this. I wonder if there is an off-season argument to be had about, well, look, if Mahomes was healthy, where you could figure that out. But at some point, the accomplishments are hard to argue. We talked about this after the regular season game. We talked about this before the regular season game. The Bengals are the only team in football who can scoreboard the Chiefs. Just say, hey, you can talk your bleep. We're going to smoke cigars after a divisional round playoff. What can you say to hurt us? Nothing, because you haven't beaten us yet in these iterations of these teams. So the Bengals know that they are going to be able to at least stake a rightful claim for the throne in the AFC. Certainly if they win the Super Bowl, they're going to have one appearance followed up by one win there. They're going to be able to take that victory tour all the way up until the kickoff of week 1 next year at minimum. And also, the Chiefs simply, it is hard for me to imagine an offseason of the Chiefs having to sit with another AFC championship game ended by the Bengals at Arrowhead. Want to doesn't determine how the game's going to end.
Absolutely.
But man, I have a hard time just imagining what Travis Kelce will look like if they go to 0-4 against these Bengals.
I think the Bengals have a psychological advantage over the Chiefs, whereas the Chiefs have had that advantage for a long time, in where one side looks over the other and says they are not intimidated at all by that team. Like, they view themselves as the better team. They are not the big bad wolf over there. They're not the bullies. We're the bullies. Sort of that view, where the Chiefs are saying, this is a team that's got us 3 in a row. We gotta find a way to go and win this game. And in 2019 and 20, until the Super Bowl, I had called it the inevitability of Patrick Mahomes, that it was just inevitable they were going to find a way to win. Against the Texans divisional round, against the Titans in the championship, against the 49ers in the Super Bowl, against the Browns with Chad Henne stepping in, against the Bills after falling behind early, 10-0, I think was the score, 9-0, whatever it might have been, and falling behind early, that they found a way to come back and win that game, and it wasn't really stressful late in the game because they just took control. And then heading into that Bucs game, it's like, look, offensive line or not, there's an inevitability of Patrick Mahomes. And that was shattered in the Tampa Bay game. And it was shattered last year in the AFC Championship game. I have that feeling around the Bengals and Joe Burrow right now, of the inevitability of the Bengals and Joe Burrow just simply finding a way to get it done. They did it against the Raiders last year. They did it against the Titans. They did it against the Chiefs. The only difference is Mahomes did it against the 49ers in the Super Bowl, and Joe Burrow didn't against the Rams. But they did it against the Ravens and did it against the Bills, and now they're playing a team in which they feel like that team's worse than us, and we punked them. and we're going to go out there and have some more fun punking this team. It's the first time for the Chiefs since that Patriots game in 2018 that they have played a team in the playoffs that has experience of winning the AFC, of a championship of some sort. Not just a division championship, but a championship of some sort, and they went to your house and beat you, and they beat you in the regular season as well. That the Bills might have won regular season games, but they weren't beating the Chiefs in the postseason. And the Titans might have won some regular season games, but they weren't beating the Chiefs in the postseason, and they hadn't gone to a Super Bowl, and the Bills hadn't gone to a Super Bowl. This is the first time since that Patriots game where they walk out on the field and that team has championship pedigree and has the experience of winning a Lamar Hunt trophy with a lot of the guys that are still there, while you do too with much fewer guys on your team that have the experience of a Lamar Hunt and certainly a Lombardi trophy than the team across from you does with the Lamar Hunt trophy a year ago. And we'll see how the Chiefs respond to what I believe will be viewed as the favorite, the Bengals, to come in their house and win. How do the Chiefs respond to that this week, and how physical does this game get? Because they've got championship pedigree too. Can they go and get it done against the Bengals? We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. We'll hear from Andy Reid coming up next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Every time I walk by Mr. Goodbar, he calls me, and says, Andy, come eat me.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Beards. We'll hang out with Mick Shaffer coming up at 1 o'clock. Thank you to Field Yates, NFL insider from ESPN. He's got Bengals something like 27-23, somewhere around there for the game on Sunday night. Let's hear from Andy Reid. Andy Reid at the podium opened up with his thoughts on yet another AFC Championship game for the Chiefs.
You're doing great. You're doing a good job.
Go with, you know what? Let's
Can I get more words of affirmation, Beards?
Let's do this. Let's play number one if we can. Andy Reid opened up his Monday press conference with his thoughts on another AFC Championship game.
We look forward to the challenge of playing the Bengals, obviously. It's they're a heck of a football team and well-deserving to be in the position they're in. They played great football yesterday. So, we'll work on tomorrow with the players. We'll start working on them and practicing against them. As far as injuries go, really, Patrick is the main one, and as you guys know, he hurt his ankle. So it's been reported that it's a high ankle sprain. So that's pretty accurate. With that, time's yours.
Let's go first to Herbie Teope. Go ahead, Herbie.
Good afternoon, Coach. On the subject of Patrick, he told us after the game that he would immediately go into treatment. How encouraged are you by the past 2 days of treatment? And Brad, I'll probably have a follow-up.
Yeah, no, he's worked hard in the treatment and is doing okay. Yeah.
And Coach, I think I'm going to go all the way back to 2002. The last time you had a starting quarterback dealing with an ankle injury with Donovan McNabb, he did come back in the playoffs. But how did that experience help you prepare for this scenario with your starting quarterback in Mahomes and limiting a workload and potentially developing a workload for him in practice?
Yeah, Donovan's was different in that there ended up being a fracture in there. So that was a little different deal. But he did very well. He worked his tail off, got himself back. Went through kind of the same thing with T.O. At one time. So for the Super Bowl, who worked his way through it. And, but both those two had fractures.
He has had an injury with Patrick Mahomes, an ankle injury. It wasn't in the playoffs. It was week number 1 of 2019 there in Jacksonville, in which then he still played the rest of the game and did not miss a week. It was a high ankle sprain, and it was something that we know bothered him for a while until, oddly enough, the knee injury allowed him to rest his ankle, which, healed that ankle. It's one of those where, your arm hurts? You want me to take your mind off your arm? Yeah. And you kick somebody in the leg. Oh, now your leg hurts. You're not thinking about your arm, are you? Oh, hey, your knee injury. You're not thinking about that ankle. So he's had experience with that, and so has Patrick Mahomes. And the only difference being it was the other foot. It was the left foot for Patrick Mahomes in that game against the Jags and moving forward, and a difference in planting where with the left foot being the issue, he was throwing a lot off of his back foot and not really stepping into the throw. Where this one, he's planting with his right foot that's injured, and then what are the mechanics then to throw the ball? And if it's on time and accurate and with as much juice as he's typically putting on the ball. Andy Reid continues and says that he fully expects Patrick to be true to his word and be on the field on Sunday.
Yeah, he told you guys. I mean, he mentioned it to you that he's going to play. So, I mean, that's his mindset. And then we'll just take it day by day and see how he does.
Let's go next to Aaron Ladd. Go ahead, Aaron.
Hey, appreciate the time here. Kind of 2 quarterback-related questions. First, about Chad. What would you say is his biggest asset that he brings to the quarterback room and be able to step in and be ready in these big moments?
Yeah, well, I mean, he's got a consistent personality. He's smart. He well-aged pro. He knows how to prepare without getting a lot of reps, and so we didn't have any of the hiccups that you'd have as far as the clock management and all that stuff. So he handled it, and the guys know they know how he goes about his business. So his leadership also fits in that.
And then as far as Joe Burrow, Chris kind of talked a lot this year about one of the missed sacks motivating him. He was only sacked once in that Buffalo game yesterday. What do you think makes him so hard to get down and makes him so slippery in the pocket?
Yeah, he's a strong kid. He is elusive, and you've got to make sure that you wrap him up. I mean, Chris probably said it the best. He was the one out there, working it, and he's a heck of a football player.
A lot of talk off season for this chance. Of course, there was talk heading into the Bengals game earlier this year about wanting to exact a little revenge on bringing Joe Burrow down, and they did not do that without Burrow sliding down first. That was the sack they got, was when Burrow went and slid, and then Karlaftis was there to get credit for that. Andy Reid was asked if he was preparing as if Patrick Mahomes is going to start by giving him all the reps in practice this week.
Yeah, well, the game plan part, we don't have to do much either way. I mean, they both run the same play. So as far as the reps, I've got to see how he feels, when we get ready for practice. To practice there.
Okay. And you've done well with your backup quarterbacks when you've had to put them into games over the years, and even here, but also going back to Philly. Just wondering what goes into that. I mean, is it just a case of finding stuff they like to do, or is there more to it than that?
Yeah, Adam, we try to keep open communication with the quarterbacks the best we can, and then evaluate them. We've had Chad here a while, so we know the plays he likes and doesn't like. We also know the plays that Pat likes and doesn't like. So we try to blend it and make sure that we've got plays that work for both of them.
I did find it interesting. We haven't played the clip of Chad Henne on Saturday after the game saying that he ranks those plays. I didn't realize they do that.
And I'm guessing they all do that. I'm guessing Mahomes does that. That I'm so glad that you caught that, because that's why I clipped that one post game. I was like, oh, that seems like one of those things that I'm sure is probably pretty common in some pockets of the NFL, certainly in the Andy Reid tree. But I never really think about like Chad Henne, who almost never plays, having a power ranking of the plays he likes in a situation like that one.
And going into a game plan each week. So Chad Henne getting ready for the Jags. Probably not expecting to play, but getting ready as in, I'm going to be out there, so I need to be ready to go. So with the game plan, I also need to have the plays that I like the best, plays that I don't like. And that's when he was asked about, did you ask for that rollout to Tony? And he's like, well, third down and short, it was one of the main plays, and it was up pretty high on the list of plays that I liked and ranked this week. So, interesting. Okay. I'm guessing that'll be ranked pretty high every single week while he's in there. Andy Reid went on to say that the Chiefs and Bengals should know quite a bit about each other since they've played each other so often recently.
Yeah, well, we know they're talented in all three phases. It's the same guys playing against each other. So I'm sure both teams will have adjustments that they make, and both teams will play hard, and we'll just see how. I mean, these games have been close, so we'll just see where it goes, come game time.
And Coach, with Patrick specifically, how much of what he did to get prepared for the AFC Championship game 2 years ago is something that you guys are maybe anticipating, sort of putting him through a particular practice where he obviously built up as the week went along? Is that something that you feel is achievable, or is it optimistic?
Yeah, it's a possibility. It's too early to tell you. I mean, I'm gonna just see how he's doing when we get to that Wednesday practice and see where we're at.
It is a good point. I mean, he had that turf toe that we know required surgery, and he hurt it against Cleveland. And then there was the concussion protocol, non-concussion protocol. There was so much talk about whether or not Patrick Mahomes would be cleared from the concussion protocol, or was he ever even in the concussion protocol, that there wasn't much conversation, if at all, about the fact that he suffered an injury in which, turf toe, that a few weeks later he had surgery on. And so that was a foot injury that he had to overcome while ramping up and getting ready for an AFC Championship game against a good team in the Buffalo Bills. So an interesting point there. Andy Reid continued saying that practice is important, but time will tell how important making or missing practice would be if Patrick Mahomes has to miss any time this week.
Yeah, heck, who knows? I mean, I don't know that. I mean, he's done amazing things with limited time, so I can't answer that really.
Okay. That's fine. And then the next one, short yardage. You've been great at it at times this year. It's been a little bit of a struggle. I was wondering, this is a different dynamic. You had to kind of retool the offense without Tyreek Hill. Is this a kind of a product of all the time? I know, listen, I've had a lot of guys in the league tell me the most precious thing you have are reps, right? There's only so many of them. Is this maybe an example of where reps had to be burnt to build the overall offense, to get everybody on page, all the new receivers? Maybe they're just, it's falling through the cracks, some of the short yardage stuff you needed to work on?
Well, it needed to fall through the cracks the other day. I mean, it was we didn't do a very good job with the quarterback sneak, but we've had some pretty good snaps at short yardage. Other than that, so anyways, it depends. It depends on which plays we're drawing from here, I guess. That was not a good showing for sure.
It hasn't been a good showing in a number of games this year. And, I thought they would go more belldozer along within the push with the belldozer. They went Noah Gray, and, I mean, it still should work. You still should be able to pick up a half yard or a yard. And makes sense as to why the Chiefs challenged that spot with Pacheco. They end up punting. They challenged, lost the challenge, didn't pick up the first down on the tight end sneak, and then they punt the ball. But also 3rd and 1 right after the fumble, they couldn't pick up a first down. And those are crucial because you can't just simply rely on, well, it's 3rd down and 4, 3rd down and 5. You don't want to be at 3rd and 1s. And if you're in 3rd and 1s, you better pass the ball. No, you got to be able to go out and just kick somebody's ass on the offensive line and reset the line of scrimmage 1 or 2 yards down the field and go and pick up the first down.
And I was not pounding the table for this on Saturday because there was just, frankly, too much noise. Too many things you didn't know about Patrick Mahomes' ankle, too much going on with the offense that I was actually okay with kind of pulling back a little bit on this. But on Sunday, the Chiefs are going to be in a place that usually the visitors are in at Arrowhead, which is that it's 4-down territory sooner than you'd think because your possessions are more valuable, your successes on those possessions are more valuable, and you cannot be giving up on the ball as quickly as they did in a couple instances here. Again, some of that short yardage stuff maybe gets a little easier if you have a second crack at it as well. You certainly are going to convert more of them when you give yourself one more chance. Obviously, also, really big deal if you go for it and don't get it. But every drive is going to have that kind of pressure against the Bengals. A punt is a loss against Cincy, especially when your offense is probably not as dynamic as it is when Mahomes is fully healthy.
Andy Reid continued and said that, Patrick had a similar injury in 2019 opener, and Andy was asked to compare those two.
Yeah, I think this one isn't quite as bad as that one, Sam. So, but I mean, they're similar. They're sore, but not quite the same.
And then I know so much of the week can probably be the chess game of trying to anticipate what they're going to do for you guys. Does Patrick's injury factor into what you sort of try and anticipate that the Bengals might do defensively?
I'm sure they'll have something, that they do in lieu of that. But I'm not going to chase a bunch of different things. We should have things covered in our protections and that, no matter what.
Was that a pun by Andy Reid in lieu of the injury?
Did you hear what they're not going to do? They're not going to chase it.
Wow.
2 name double entendres in there for Andy Reid.
You know what he wanted to say is, on those quarterback sneaks, you just got to burrow a little more. It's what you have to do if you're going to pick that thing up. Okay.
Mixing it up on defense.
Whoa!
Absolutely. Well, boy, we just teed that one up for you.
Whoa! This sounds like it could be harder than it used to be. Oh, sorry, getting that one wrong, really? Hayden Hurst!
That was the Hurst one that we've done so far. That was really bad.
You got a Justin Reed between the lines.
We were 3 for 3, which would be Trey and O. But then you went and did that. Andy Reid says that, speaking of which, Lou Anarumo's defense with Cincinnati is rock solid.
Yeah, first of all, he's done a great job. He puts his guys in good position to make plays. He has a variety of different coverages and fronts that he works with. His players understand him. Zones are tight. They do a good job of man-to-man. So well-rounded scheme that he has.
How you doing, Andy? Good to see you. I'm just kind of curious. You mentioned a little bit about, you got to see how the week goes with Patrick, but I just kind of want you to maybe confirm with everything he knows in the offense, he could play on Sunday without taking reps throughout the week, correct?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I think so. He's never done that, so I don't know. I don't have the answer for you on that.
And last to Vahe. Go ahead, Vahe.
Hey, Andy, just one minor point of clarification on Patrick. Are you able to say what grade the sprain is? And I have one follow-up, Brad.
Yeah, I don't have that information for you on the grade.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that, Andy.
Yeah, there's no grade on it. I don't have a grade for you on it.
And then the follow-up is just, can you tell us a little more about what it took to get him out of the game? You said he wanted to fight. But how does that dynamic go? I know it must be a little strange.
Well, listen, I mean, he wanted to play. That's what he wanted to do. So he didn't want to come out of the game, and so that's he was pretty adamant about that. But sometimes you have to get things checked out so you're not putting yourself in harm's way there. So that's what we did.
Yeah, and they won the game. And now we'll see what happens coming up this week. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. Wrap up this hour. Mick Shaffer coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. Learn funniest best, all still to come here on a Monday edition of Sports Radio 810 WHB. It's The Zone.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Alexa, tell the government that I did pay my taxes this year. Thank you.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll hang out with Mick Shaffer coming up in the next hour. Learn Funniest Best still to come as well. A lot of things that Andy Reid said there. A lot of conversation about the game coming up this weekend and Patrick Mahomes. To me, there was one important takeaway and soundbite from Andy Reid when asked about the game or the ankle injury against the Jags that he suffered in Week 1 in 2019. He said, this one isn't quite as bad as that one. I would have guessed the exact opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he did not give a grade to the sprain, and I think that may be what Vahe might have been going for.
F minus.
It's an F. He got a grade of F on the injury. Vahe might have been going for okay, was this a grade 2? And that maybe was like a grade 3. What's the grading? I don't know what the grade is, but an F. But this one isn't quite as bad as that one. That would be fantastic news.
Come.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
There's one thing I bring to the show every time. It's my Nuggets.
Mixed Nuggets, baby.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
We continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Beards. Mick Shaffer, KSHB 41 Sports Director, joining us here for the final hour of the show on a victory Monday for the Kansas City Chiefs. They win 27-20, and they get ready for AFC Championship game number 5 in a row.
It's amazing
at Arrowhead,
man. And I've been here more than anywhere else in my life. Been here over 20 years. You guys have been here longer. Are you 20 yet, Josh?
Just recently. I just turned. I can drink now legally, actually.
Well, that would be 21.
Hopefully, you guys have taken a moment to step back and think, "Wow, what a world!" Because that world did not exist, even in the 1990s. Anything close to this did not exist, and especially from the time I got here, 01 until the arrival of Patrick Mahomes in 2017. None of this was even thought of. The championship game seemed, and how we know it's only 1 win away if you do things right in the regular season. It seemed like 10 upsets in January away. Yes. If you would have asked me in 2010, what does it take to get an AFC Championship game? I think it's 6 wins, and you had 2 a week there for a few weeks, and all on the road.
One act of God.
Yeah, yes.
I think one devastating injury to an opponent.
You have to sacrifice a virgin.
Yeah, there's got to be a virgin sacrifice. That stressed me out for a really long time.
There was one AFC Championship game in my lifetime that I watched, and that was in Buffalo in 93/94. 13 at that time.
Okay.
Yeah. 13
I
years
remember
old.
watching it, cheering for the Bills. So that worked out for me.
Jerk.
The next week did not.
Always known you sucked.
You were specifically rooting for a 13-year-old Jason Anderson to be really sad.
Yeah, that's what it was. You're like, there's going to be a guy I meet one day, and I can't stand him already.
Had the Chiefs drafted either Thurman Thomas or Barry Sanders, I would have been the biggest Chiefs fan in the world.
Okay, I'll just take your word for it that's why you were rooting against the Chiefs.
I was the biggest Bills fan. We would.
It's perfectly fine.
It was funny. I would. I kind of didn't really hate the Chiefs, but I didn't like the Chiefs. I hated the Royals because the only time I got to see the Yankees play was against the Royals because that was the closest. And early on in my life, that was a big rivalry. And then
it was.
I turned new leaves.
Good for you. You stopped hating as much.
Logos on each side.
Good for you. Glad to hear it. So,
can I give you a college NFL quarterback combo stat that I think is really gonna scratch an itch for both of you guys?
Yes, please.
This is from the Reddit college football account.
College and NFL, Trevor Lawrence has never lost on a Saturday.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Nope, hold on. Just refresh that page. Tweet's gone.
Okay.
From Reddit CFB, 4 years ago, no starting quarterback from the Big 12 had ever won an NFL playoff game. 3 of the 4 remaining starters are from the Big 12.
That is amazing right there.
That's
Brock
unbelievable.
Purdy, give me a break.
Well, 3 of the 4 are from the Big 12, and then also half and half are from the Big 12 and the SEC.
Yeah.
Right, that's right.
But also the Big 10.
And Big 10, yeah.
A lot of conferences can claim half of these guys.
Joe Burrow's Big 10's
was Burrow at a Big 12?
Burrow was he was at the Big 10. He was at Ohio
Burrow
State.
was at Ohio State.
He wasn't at the Big 12, though, right?
No, but you have Jalen Hurts was in the SEC and the Big 12.
He had a foot in both.
Yes.
Purdy was in the Big 12 along with Patrick Mahomes. So it's SEC has Burrow and Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
And the Big 12 has Patrick Mahomes and Purdy.
Big 10 saying, hey, we got one.
Whoa!
Kind of. We never played him. Okay. He was in our quarterback.
Crazy. All these different conferences have a say in these quarterbacks.
And then also these 5 straight, you look at Mahomes' record in the divisional game, and of course he's 5-0, and you look at his stats, and you would think, man, he's just dominated.
Mm-hmm.
And he has at times, but he has faced major adversity in 4 of those 5 games in the last 4, right?
You're right.
So the injury this time, down to the Bills with 13 seconds left last time. The concussion basically to the Browns.
Which was also the game in which he had the turf toe. So
Same one. 2 injuries. and then you're down 24-0 to the Texans in your second one. I was trying to find something. I guess they played in a blizzard in the first game against the Colts.
That's what's funny. The adversity for all those games and his numbers, the game that sort of went to script and was sort of a more relaxing win, no touchdown passes for Mahomes.
No, he had a touchdown run.
But zero.
It wasn't relaxing after the block punt for a touchdown. Remember that?
That is true, yeah. But as the game sort of progressed, you're like, all right. And then late with T.Y. Hilton, but still, it was like, all right, the Chiefs. The only stress of that was the Arrowhead. Yeah. The Arrowhead ghosts was the stress.
You
and
overcame the curse for the first time in, what was it, 25 years or whatever it was?
But that game, no touchdown passes. The other one's all this adversity. Oh, he's 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns, 3 touchdown passes. Leaves the game in the third quarter when he already has 200 and a couple of touchdowns.
It just makes me think that the football gods are still out to get Kansas City, but Mahomes is like half God himself. He's overcoming.
He's like Hercules. Like he is actively
demigod.
fighting off the rest. Yeah, he is a demigod trying to drag the Chiefs past their cosmic curse.
So what does that make Joe Burrow and the Bengals?
An angel, I guess.
Damn gods.
I think Joe Burrow's on God's side. That's with Mick's, the way Mick has framed this, I think that we have to embrace that the Chiefs are working against them.
And it's lowercase, and there's lots of them.
Okay,
and
that's
they're
fair.
always battling,
right? Sure. I don't want to make it too theological. So Joe Burrow's on the side of, the Bengals, though.
These are like gods like Thor's a god, right? Or half god.
Well, yeah, and hold on now, because the Bengals, Bills, and Chiefs all definitely have claims for being cursed by football gods for the recent time. Have all 3 of those teams made a deal with the football devil? And who is the football devil? I imagine it's Al Davis.
Yeah, it is Al Davis. Belichick. Well, whatever deal the Bills made with the devil, they did not.
They didn't sign or something. It's
the
always something like that.
It's the fine print.
You initial on page 12.
They didn't get their end of it because an AFC championship game a couple of years ago to show for it, and then losses in the divisional round the last 2 years. And now they have some big decisions to make moving forward with their team because, we look at Spotrac, which I like Spotrac.
You like your little Spotrac,
I like me a little Spotrac. And over the cap, people like the over the cap. People
I
like
always
the
type it in
Spotrac.
like Sport Track. I feel like it should be called Sport Track
because it's sports.
Track and sports.
If you look at Spotrac and their projected salary cap number for next year is like $225. The Bills right now have 39 players under contract, and they are currently $5 million over that cap of projected $225 with 39 players under contract. With unrestricted free agents, which do not count in the $5 million already over the cap for next year, Jordan Poyer, Tremaine Edwards, Roger Saffold, Singletary, Jordan Phillips, Shaq Lawson, Quessenberry, and A.J. Klein are all unrestricted free agents, and they're already $5 million over the cap for next year.
When I was looking at
Josh Allen jumps up to almost 40.
Von Miller, and the second thing was Von Miller Spotrac, so people are looking at that too.
Yeah, he was 5.6 this year, and he jumps to like almost 19 next year.
Yeah, so next year it's over 18.
Yeah,
yep.
and Josh Allen was like 16 this year, and he jumps to almost 40, like 39 or 40 next year. This was the year they were putting everything together. We're going to take the lower hit on Von Miller. We'll take the lower hit on Josh Allen. We'll move those things back. We'll worry about Edmonds and Poyer and all those guys later on. It's 2022. This is the year for us. And they don't even get to the AFC Championship game. They lose at home for only the second time in their history to the Bengals. And now they go into this offseason with major, major questions and no longer a cheap quarterback. Bills have some issues. And, in fact, I would probably say I'd rather be the Jags than the Bills right now because that's an ascending team with still a cheaper quarterback, some money to play with, and the Bills are going backwards. AFC Championship game, divisional round, overtime loss, divisional round, ass
blowout.
whipping. That's heading in the wrong direction for the Bills. Now, if the Chiefs lose in regulation of the Bengals, you can also make a case that the Chiefs Super Bowl champions, Super Bowl loss, AFC Championship loss in overtime, AFC Championship loss in regulation.
But as far as like the big picture and where you're going, the direction.
I think the winner of this game claims the best team in the AFC moving forward. And I know that seems obvious. Well, you just won the AFC. Well, the Bengals won the AFC last year, and people still doubted it. It was the Bills, it was the Chiefs, and then the Bengals, but, that was a magical run for them. We'll see what they can do this year. And look, they started 1-3, so let's calm ourselves on the Bengals. Okay, well, if the Chiefs win, it's like, okay, the Chiefs are now 3 of 4 Super Bowls, and they got revenge on the Bengals at home.
And you've won 3 of the 5 championship games you're in.
But if the Bengals win this game, they are now the new Chiefs. Chiefs of 18-19/20, and I know they won a Super Bowl, but if you're talking about just the AFC, the Bengals are the new Chiefs, and that they're the team that everybody's going to be chasing, and there's no more doubting them, and there's no more, well, I just think they're better than this team, and I'm mimicking myself, heading into that game in early December. I just think they're better. Yeah, maybe they are, but they'd have to go out there and actually prove it, because they're 0-3 against this team, and they've lost by 3 points every single time that they've played. It's a closer game, and guess what really good teams do? Find ways to win close games. So if I believe that the Chiefs are a better team, well, the Bengals have proven.
3.
Yeah, the Bengals have proven that they're the best. Yeah, you're right. They've led in all 3 of these games.
They've been up 2 scores in all 3?
No, because they were only up by 4, driving to hopefully make it 2 scores when Kelsey fumbled. I think they were up 2 scores in the championship game.
Do you think? 2 times 2, maybe?
And they were up 2 scores the first
go
around.
They were 28-17, right, at one point.
Yep. And so they had some pretty bad second halves in those games. And so what do they do this week? I don't know. But I know this. Yeah. The Chiefs aren't going to be approaching this game thinking, we're better than this team. We just got to go and show it. They've gotten lucky. We've hurt ourselves. And the Bengals aren't showing up to this game going, oh, we still got to get over this Chiefs team. We got to prove that we're better than this Chiefs team. No, they were. It was kind of a championship celebration there against Buffalo after the game. You're smoking cigars in the locker room. I don't care if it's Eli Apple or not. You're smoking cigars. You feel like you just accomplished something pretty big.
Absolutely. And look, I mean, championships, they frame past quote-unquote failures as like accomplishments, right? The Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl this year. You take a step back and you're like, man, they made it the AFC Championship game the previous 4 years. They made it the last year instead of like, oh, they lost to the Bengals, or man, they got blown out by the Bucs. They made it to the Super Bowl that year. Then they made it back to a championship game. Then they won it this year. It frames everything differently, and the opposite is true. A loss there, all of a sudden, a 5th straight AFC Championship game, which, as we talked about, would have been beyond Chiefs fans' wildest dreams just 10 years ago, right? Something like this, and now it's kind of seen as a failure.
Yeah, a loss to the Jags would have been disaster. A loss on Sunday, I don't know how to view it. I mean, honestly, it's a season that wasn't good enough because Super Bowl or bust is what we typically say. But it's hard to say Super Bowl or bust when at the beginning of the season I picked the Bills to win the Super Bowl.
It would be different than the last 2 years losing to the Bengals and the Bucs in that, like you just said, oh crap, the Bengals are the new Chiefs. They're the team now. Yeah, we're not the team anymore.
And you've got to go and you got to go and catch them. And that's part of this weekend. And I think, I said it at the beginning of the show, this is the first time that the Chiefs will play a team in the playoffs since that Patriots game in 2018, where they're playing a team with championship pedigree. That the Bengals won the AFC Championship last year, and they're playing them in the playoffs. Texans, Titans, Browns, Bills, then Jags. This is a team now that they're playing since that championship game against the Patriots that are like, yeah, we know what it's like to win a championship. We know what it takes to win a championship, and we beat you last year. There's not going to be a psychological advantage for the Chiefs over the Bengals. It might be the other way, but I do think there will be some added motivation on the Chiefs side, and we've said this before, but there'll be some added motivation because unlike the previous game earlier this year when it was, oh, it's revenge, it was also revenge with everybody picking the Chiefs to win.
Yeah.
This is revenge with what feels like the national sort of view is going to be a lot of Bengals.
Just don't talk any trash because the Bengals are like middle schoolers, right? If they hear anything, it's, no, prove you. And that's, we talked all the last couple weeks about, okay, who made out best in this whole one less game for 2 teams thing, and the compromise with the neutral site game, coin flip, all that. I think we all thought the Bengals got the shaft. Maybe they got the better end of the deal because they got the motivation from hearing about the neutral site game, from the coin flip and all that stuff, and how it didn't really make sense. And they did maybe get the shaft. Maybe they used that into into motivation and fuel to do what they did on Sunday.
We won't be able to we're on the air during the press conferences, but I would really enjoy. There's gonna be a lot of players at the press conferences this week.
NFL takes over.
It's a championship week. That's right.
And might be taking over the venues too.
I was like, a couple of years ago they had a press conference every day because the NFL was like, it's championship week. You're going to talk on Tuesday and Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Now the NFL's like, you guys do this every year. Just 3 is fine.
Whatever you want to do, just do your thing. I would like somebody to ask one of the players. In my mind, Frank Clark would be the best. Like, Frank, did you know that the Bengals were selling championship game tickets for the Bengals-Jags game? Did you know that they were selling those, that they sort of assumed that you guys were going to lose to the Jags and they were going to beat the Bills, that there were championship game tickets being sold? Were you guys aware of this at all? Follow-up, did you guys know that the Bengals have already sent team personnel to Phoenix to scout for hotels, routes to Glendale for the stadium, where they're going to be practicing, all of that stuff? Did you know that they already have team personnel for the Bengals there getting ready for the Super Bowl? Were you aware of that, Frank?
By the way, I know that's true. Is the first one true?
Oh yeah, they sold. They sold
so
Bengals Jags. We talked about it on Friday because Joe Mixon said it on Thursday. I'm like, tickets for less. Oh, here you go, $300. Bengals Jags tickets for the first AFC Championship game hosted in Cincinnati. And how long? It was so much money it was going to cost. Heck, my buddy who's a Jags fan, he had Jags and I can't remember what game that he had tickets for, but it was down the road. If like the Jags beat the Chiefs, and then it would have been, or if the Jags won, and like the Ravens or Dolphins won, and then the Chiefs beat the other team, and then the Jags would be the highest remaining seed. They were already selling tickets in Jacksonville for a potential AFC Championship game there. He's like, I can get tickets. It's just how it works. It's how it works. But I really want a Chiefs player to be asked about it and to blow it up like last week, and then have Cincinnati fans go, well, that's just how it works. Like, well, of course you got people down in Glendale figuring things out because you got to prep. It's about getting ready for the games. It's just such a manufactured controversy. But they certainly used that in their favor, and they talked about it after the game a lot. Just as they talked about what Justin Reid had to say.
Georgia said, nobody thought we could do this. Everybody thought you would do this.
Thought they were going to be 7-6. I don't think that anyone.
They can't actually be impossible.
I don't think that's the real number. I think I quoted that guy right.
You could be
the Bengals, they can't play the disrespect card this week. Can they? I mean, I guess they can because they'll figure out a way to do it. If the Chiefs, somebody talks.
Mahomes is hurt and they're still picking them over
Exactly.
us?
Actually, they're not. 83% of the money that's coming in at DraftKings is on the money line for the Bengals to win.
Why don't we take the Justin Reid presser live on air if you can?
We should do that. We will try to have that one.
Hey,
what if he just really ripped one off this week? We're 2 Andy Reid conversations in with Justin Reid. What if this week he said, you know what? They're sorry. Whole group.
I'm sorry. Look, we beat ourselves last time. That's what happened.
Mahomes could have had his right foot amputated this week, and we'd beat them by 15.
Yeah. They beat the Bills.
Name Bono Brown.
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah,
Bo Giroux or something like that.
Soft.
I don't know. Just tell you
Joe
this.
DeBurgo, is that?
Yeah, Bo don't know about coming in here and beating us this year. I know that. I know I've never lost to the Bengals in the AFC Championship game. This is Justin Reid, and so it ain't going to happen this weekend. That's for sure. The big thing from Andy Reid was that he said this high ankle sprain, is not as bad as the one against the Jags in 2019, which is
it's great news.
Unbelievable. Like, I would have guessed that this was much worse than the one against the Jags because the Jags game, he had it taped up, but he never went back and had x-rays or anything. He just kept playing. Mm-hmm. He did have a little bit of time to go and get worked on his ankle because
was it at the end of a drive when it happened?
So if you remember, it was you will remember
Tell me.
No, you will remember this.
I remember playing the Jags. That was week 1?
Yeah, you'll remember this, though. It was at the end of a drive in the middle of the second quarter, and there was extra time for Patrick Mahomes to get work on his ankle because that was the fight with Myles Jack and everything that was going on down in the end zone, and he got ejected from the game and all of that stuff. So Mahomes is over getting taped up while the officials are going through all the flags and the unsportsmanlikes and disqualifications and everything, and Mahomes is over there taking dropbacks and throwing the ball, and he had a little bit more time in that game to sort of get ready. But he looked like he was able to move around easier in that game than he did against the Jags this go-around. Also, Jags, what the bleep with Mahomes' ankles? I mean, seriously, stop it, punks. But I went back and watched that game, the Jags after the injury, just because I wanted to see what Mahomes looked like when he was moving around. And he was able to, I mean, there was a limp, but it wasn't
Where
like.
do you find that full game?
You can go to NFL Plus. You can go to NFL.com or the app and stuff.
Okay.
You can go back and watch condensed games and full games and everything. And so
he has a big shelf of VHS tapes.
That's exactly right. Yeah, went back and let me pull up that Chiefs and Houston Oilers game.
Let's see this. Oh no, that's Lisa at North and Rockers. There's my Jacksonville.
That's right. Let's play Matt Hasselbeck real quick. Matt Hasselbeck, this was on ESPN yesterday before the games took place, and so the conversation was about Patrick Mahomes and the Eagles' dominance. But Matt Hasselbeck talking about Patrick Mahomes, the ankle injury, and the experience with something like that.
Patrick Mahomes has had this exact same injury. Go back to 2019, ironically, against the Jags. He got hurt the exact same way, okay? And what did he do? Well, he finished the game. He played the next 2 weeks. He averaged 400 yards passing a game, had 7 touchdowns, no interceptions. He beat the Raiders. He beat the Ravens. So as a player, when you've actually lived through it and it's happened to you before, like it's a very scary thing. Like everyone like holds their breath like, whoa. But as a player, he's done it. And so my only concern really is when he did it the last time, it was his left ankle. This time it's his right ankle, so it's the ankle that he's pushing off of.
Yeah, watching the game against the last part of the Jags game in 2019, and then watched the first half of the Raiders. There was a lot of back foot throws that he wasn't really stepping into the throw because it was left foot.
Back foot throws when he's not
right,
injured.
exactly. But now it's his back foot that is injured.
It was a front foot throw into the
that's right.
MVS
That's right.
touchdown.
That's exactly right. Yeah, just do that. Just jump and throw it. Against the Raiders in that first game back, the first quarter he was 5 of 8 for 27 yards, which doesn't sound too bad. But those passes were some short, quick, down the line of scrimmage, let me get the ball out of my hands, quick screen pass here for him to be 5 of 8. The 3 incompletions, there were a couple of them that were just bad throws. That were just, he wasn't even close to completing the pass. Like he had an open Sammy Watkins and he overthrew him by like 10 yards. And it was like, oh, that's probably a pass he makes in his sleep if he's healthy. But the second quarter is when he went 13 of 18 for 286 yards and 4 touchdowns in the second quarter against the Raiders.
Yeah.
So it took him a little bit of time in that Raiders game to sort of get acclimated to playing a game full speed with the ankle injury, and then he turned into just simply being Patrick Mahomes. The difference is, that was the Raiders in 19. You can't have a quarter of getting acclimated and trying to figure out and feel the game out against the Bengals because you might find yourself down 14-0.
Yeah, and he put up 28 points in that Raiders game, 40 in the Jags before that, then 33 against the Ravens, then 34 in that close game at the Detroit Lions. And then they had Travis Kelce's 30th birthday party, and he scored 13 against the Colts.
Yeah, I mean, it was just don't turn 30 again, Travis. If Travis has another 30th birthday party this week, then there's an issue.
Just wait.
It's a big issue.
Late February.
With that one. 913-912-4810.
I'm not concerned. I think it's a 100% chance he's going to play.
I agree with that. It's
now, how much will he be limited? We talked about it last week and like how valuable his running skills are and grow in the playoffs and how much of a bigger factor that is. That will likely be diminished. We saw that one first down where he could have, walked 5 yards for the first down. He chose to throw it.
Yeah.
But he did scamper for one later in the game. Hopped a little bit there, and I loved his soundbite after. He's like, "Yeah, you should." There's gonna be issues with footwork, but I've always had issues with footwork. I never fundamental with my feet.
If there's a person who has had plenty of experience with off-platform throws and how to make different throws in different ways, it's Mahomes. He's pretty good at that. But he also leads the league in yards from throws outside the pocket. He had 0 throws outside the pocket after the injury, so that does take that element away from Mahomes and the Chiefs offense.
He's been injured outside the pocket, right, in the Browns game. Injured inside the pocket, and injured doing sneaks. Is there any safe place for him? What do you do? That option they ran the first play of the game. Maybe that's just all game. Old school option.
Well, no, it was the option against the Browns when he got knocked unconscious. What
are
can
you
they
doing
possibly
running
do?
Mahomes?
You know what? I sit him.
What are you doing putting him out there on a football field? Why is he on a football field?
On the sideline.
Sit him and hold him out for the Super Bowl. That's what you got to do. You want him to be fully healthy for the Super Bowl. You got to sit him. Henne can get this done.
Paying Henne all this money.
Come on.
Going in an AFC Championship game, Chad.
Any given Sunday. Look, he put 2 great drives together. Why can't he put 4 or 5?
How many times has Patrick Mahomes gone 98 yards on a drive in the playoffs?
Probably 0.
None of the time.
0 would be. I mean, I'm just quarterback controversy.
They got to the 40. I was up in the press box. I turned and said, "This is a great drive already." They flipped the field, put it away, play defense.
Said it on the broadcast. They got to like the 30 and was like, "This is already a successful drive."
It was
already a successful drive, and then of course they went down.
And I wonder. I mean, I can't remember if he was in the locker room. Was he in the locker room before they punted it down to the 2?
Yeah, because he had to go back.
Or if that factored in, because he was on the sidelines for a while.
He was.
No,
then they brought him back.
He had already gone to the locker room because when they punted it down to the 2, you knew that Henne was going to come in the game.
Yeah.
Like we had already known that the next drive was going to be Chad Henne.
But
and
he
then it was
out
punted
there
down
on
to
that
2.
drive for a while.
Yeah, and then they punted it down to the 2, and you're like, okay, well, we know it's Henne, and they're at the 2. Well, let's see. Oh, pass the ball on first down, of course. That's what you want to do. We'll take a timeout. Learn Funniest Best coming up next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Enjoy the rest of the day off. Thank you,
I
sir.
won't because I'm going home to my family.
What a great dad.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Beards, Mick Shaffer, KSHB 41 Sports Director, hanging out with us for the final part of the show today, getting up until 2 o'clock. Let's do some Learn Funniest Best. What we learned from the weekend, what the funniest from the weekend, and what the best from the weekend was, huh? We got everybody good to go. Mick, you well prepared?
Yep, well prepared.
Well prepared. I like how you took care of your homework before you even got in here. Good for you.
Sometimes you got to fill out the multiple choice, like, in the classroom.
Yes.
That's what people told me, at least.
What I learned over the weekend is that you actually can't have a running back snap the ball. That you can have your running back play center and have your offensive linemen lined up as wide receivers on the outside. And why don't more teams utilize this formation?
Because did you see what happened?
It worked well for the Cowboys. They picked up 8 yards.
Boom. Chunk
That's
play.
8 yards per play.
Chunk play right there.
I didn't see a play of that game. Tell me about it.
You should just see that play then. They were down by 7, and then they were going to go for 2. We found out McCarthy said after the game they were going to go for 2 because they wouldn't have made the extra point anyway.
They were only like 80 yards away from the end zone, so I'm glad they had a plan.
So they had offensive linemen to the right, offensive linemen to the left with some wide receivers, and Ezekiel Elliott as the center and nobody near him.
And he got blown up immediately.
He snapped the ball.
Who'd he snap it to?
Dak.
To Dak.
To Dak. And a linebacker came in and blew up. And they threw the ball to Turpin, who was immediately tackled.
So why would you just take Zeke out of the play? Because he's not eligible.
Well, because it was going to be one of those laterals back and forth and trying to do a miracle because it was the last play of the game and you're down 7 and you're at your own like 25
So they threw it
line.
immediately to a guy that was about surrounded by 3 guys.
Yes.
Okay,
so
I see. This is the last play of the game.
Yeah, so they throw it to Turpin, and he's got 2 offensive linemen on his side.
Here we go, Mick. Let's watch it together. This is really this will be fun for you. So this is
it'd be fun for you.
Again,
watch it for the
last. This is the formation here.
There's gaps there.
Yeah,
they got them spread out.
And then so Zeke gets leveled. Dak gets the ball out. I saw this from Kent Swanson, our friend from KCSN. I'm kind of with him. I didn't hate this play as much as most people did.
I didn't either.
I kind of get it. Like you're praying for a miracle, and it's something that there's no way the Niners is prepared for.
I would have liked to see what would have happened if.
I don't know why you don't have a center snap the football. That's the confusing part to me.
Because you need him out blocking.
Do you?
You need those guys getting down the field to block.
Don't you think Zeke could throw a block in space? And the center could definitely get the ball to Dak in a timely manner.
Also, do you have to have offensive linemen out there? I guess numbers.
Well,
right?
so when I first saw it, my thought was, hold on,
as long as they're covered up,
they'd be ineligible. But could you just do more position players and then cover them up? But now you're lateraling to more athletic guys.
Yeah,
that was my next evolution of
man
this.
Downfield, right?
Yeah, right now there would have been. Yeah,
that's a legal man downfield.
I think it would be.
They're they're 5 yards downfield.
I didn't block anybody anyway, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it would have worked, I bet there could have been some litigation. The good news is it didn't work.
And maybe the Chiefs can utilize Clyde Edwards-Helaire moving forward. Move him to center. If anything happens to Creed Humphrey, now you can also play center, snap the ball. What did you learn there, Josh?
I learned that there will be 3 quarterbacks to start 5 consecutive conference championship games, assuming Patrick Mahomes does take that opening snap on Sunday, which I expect him to do.
Yeah.
It puts Patrick Mahomes on that list alone with Tom Brady and Kenton Stabler.
Yep. Did Stabler? He started all 5, and it's 8 for the Patriots, right? Brady had 8 in a row.
Yeah, that's my backup learned was the Patriots had 8 in a row, the Raiders had 5 in a row, the Chiefs have 5 in a row, and then the Bills, Cowboys, and Eagles. Andy Reid's Eagles
there were a lot
did it 4 times in a row.
And there's obviously
Nick
more
Jacobs
than
tweeted that out and noted also that Andy Reid now is on that list twice.
2 times. What'd you learn there, Mick?
I learned that maybe when you have a disability and other senses are heightened, the Chiefs' defense and their offensive line play way better when Patrick Mahomes is hurt and out. They just do.
Oh, wait, he's hurt. We should protect him now.
How great was that defensive effort in the Broncos game a few years ago? it was single-digit points right on the road.
Yeah,
they gave up?
and the points were the first drive before Mahomes was hurt.
Yes.
The Broncos went right down the field and scored. Then Mahomes got hurt, and they're like, all right, let's play. Wait,
Here we go. He's gone, so
we're not going to be able to win 35-30. We better play some good defense here. Yeah, you're right. It's the Spidey sense. They should probably just do
the
that.
line. Yeah, they should cut Mahomes' hair, dress him up, put number 4 jersey on him, have him run out there. You're going to need some sort of voice manipulator because they're going to be able to tell that it's not Henne, and convince everybody that it's Chad Henne out there.
All right, Beards, what did you learn?
I learned that Rob Gronkowski must be very jealous of Justin Jefferson's stat line for his career because Justin Jefferson has 69 first down receptions on first down, 69 first down receptions on second down.
Get out of here.
And 69 first down receptions on third down.
Oh,
that's pretty good. I think it's a pretty good little stat.
That's a great stat. Gronk
That's
is
amazing that they're even.
Now, why is it funny?
That I don't know yet.
Okay, I need someone to explain to me why this number just busts people up so much.
Because it's the same. It's the same number.
It's just the symmetry is incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I know.
Like a yin-yang.
It's not what you're thinking. It's a sexual position.
Oh!
It's not what you're thinking at all.
Hold on, I got to Google that really quick.
It's not what you're getting at. It's just a sexual position.
It's not what you think. All right, we'll start with you with the funniest, Josh.
I guess what I just learned. Can I change my learned?
So that's having as many on first down as
crazy.
Third down.
Yeah,
that's pretty legit.
Unreal.
That's amazing, right?
Yeah.
That's unfathomable. My funniest of the weekend is Jerry Jones taking it upon himself to calm down the skittish Brett Maher before the game. Jerry Jones literally on the field as Maher was shanking kicks left and right in warm-ups. Jerry went out there and he said, son, you just make these kicks and we won't have any issues with the current safety of your or your family's health. So just go ahead and split those uprights for me, fella. And walked off, and then Brett Maher missed another extra point.
I know it was blocked, but that thing had no chance
No
of going
shot.
in.
No
that was
shot.
going to be a shank straight left, Lynn Elliott style, and instead it was blocked, and it was kind of saved by, it was blocked. It wasn't his fault.
If it would have been straight, it wouldn't have gotten blocked.
Exactly.
That's how far left it had already
Only
gone.
blocked because he shanked it into the defensive tackle.
So he was missing him beforehand as well?
He was missing him
He
pregame.
would have. Oh, yeah. His warm-up routine was a nightmare. Meanwhile, co-funniest, Robbie Gould on the other side was kicking kicks into the upright horizontally, like from across the goal line on purpose.
And hitting
the post on purpose.
Butker does that.
Just
occasion.
trick shot taunting, kicker taunting pregame.
What was your funniest, Mick?
My funniest from the weekend was, and I think this should happen more often. The ref, who was it? It's Cleat? Is it Cleat?
Sheffers?
Cleat Blateman?
No, the Chiefs game, right? Is
that sounds
who it
right.
was? He left his mic open basically, and
Everybody shut up!
Everybody shut up! That endeared me to him, right? I think I would like.
That was Sean Hockley.
Oh, that's right.
Sean Hockley. Yes, it was Hockley. And
aren't you glad I have these game books right here that I can just go?
I just Googled it and I just saw NFL referee Sean Hockley as hot mic moment.
Had faxed to you from the Chiefs headquarters, I'm sure. I think that would endear more people to referees more if you just kind of left their mics open. You would have to hear what they have to deal with from the players, right? And they're barking back. I like that. Everybody shut up.
Your funniest, Beards?
My funniest was a tweet that the Dallas Cowboys Twitter account put out a little while ago. It just said, Dak Prescott gave away the ball twice in a narrow loss to the 49ers in a matchup the Cowboys had a chance to win if they didn't, again, generate self-inflicted wounds. So I think Jerry Jones got a hold of the Twitter account after he went to go calm down Brett Maher, and he just never gave it up.
Yeah, it was all the Cowboys' fault. The 49ers had nothing to do with that. It was just the Cowboys.
Dak's fault.
My funniest from the weekend is not only the scene with Shannon Sharp and the Dylan Brooks and Ja Morant and his dad that's there, and Steven Adams making Shannon Sharp look like a small person, which is amazing to see how big Steven Adams is. And then Shannon Sharp in the tunnel saying they don't want this smoke. I don't think anybody wants the smoke from Steven Adams. That's one part of it. But then people going back and digging up this old sound from what's it called? Pardon the take?
Undisputed.
Never lost. Undisputed with Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless. This was when LeBron had a couple of people kicked out or whatever in the front row, and Shannon Sharp agreeing with LeBron in doing that. But here's Shannon Sharp's commentary on fan behavior.
The fans somehow, Skip, and you know what these seats cost, Skip, sitting courtside. They know right from wrong.
Yep.
But somehow, and it's been like this for a very long time, people think because they pay money, and we see this in restaurants. Well, you think you could talk to your server any kind of way. You think because you pay an exorbitant amount of money and the athlete are there to entertain you, you can say, you can do whatever. And it's well within my right because I paid $5,000 or I paid an exorbitant amount of money for this ticket. You cannot, you should not say certain things like what they be saying and think that it's okay.
So that was Shannon Sharp a while ago. And, of course, then he had the moment of when it's like, I paid a lot of money for these tickets. I'm going to say whatever I want to say. You don't want this smoke to me, Dylan Brooks. You can't guard LeBron.
So that's what that show sounds like? I've never watched it. Yeah. So
mostly
there you go.
Now
That's what half of it sounds
I've learned, can I go back? I've learned that I made a good decision to never watch it.
Exactly right. We'll take a timeout. Best coming up next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
So sweaty, mom's spaghetti or whatever the line is.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I had mom's spaghetti on my sweater at about 4 o'clock on Saturday. So there was...
My mom's? Oh, Josh's
mom's spaghetti.
Rim shots.
I was not calm, nor was I ready.
Keeps getting worse.
It does. All right, the best for you, Mick, from the weekend.
Best
what was your best?
me that I learned a lesson, right?
Yeah, okay.
I learned that don't gamble on Polish table tennis, which I did last night because I thought Carol Wisniewski, and she was. Or he. That person was dominating Matus Rutkowski in table tennis.
Yeah.
And so I took some good money line odds at the time, and Matus, as he is wont to do, he came all the way back on Carol. Rutkowski over Wisniewski in Polish table tennis. I didn't bet afterward, but I'm sure the Fighting Bucades were coming up to play doubles.
Yes, and they won. You should have bet on them. So there was a big underdog. Moneyline would have paid you a lot of money. Beards, what was your best?
My best was episode 2 of The Last of Us came out last night on HBO. If you guys are not watching this, you should. It's very good, and it's going to be good.
You're only the 100,000th person
I
who's
know.
told me that.
It's very good.
What, episode 2 or just the show in general?
To watch the show in general.
My best was the video that's going around of the Cameron Craig fella who had the 4-leg parlay of the first touchdown scores for $5. He had Travis Kelce, Dallas Goedert, Jamar Chase, and then let it ride.
Did he cash out?
On the Dalton Schultz touchdown. They also took video of it. $5 turned into $73,000 on a 4-leg parlay. That Cleveland radio host, his was
$50 too.
His was done in by Jamar Chase. He didn't have Jamar Chase.
He could have cashed out for like a few grand, and he didn't.
Well, that's the thing. This one, his cash out before the Cowboys and 40. But here's the thing: before the Cowboys 49ers game, the cash out was $1,300
off of $5.
Off of $5, which is great. But a chance to win $73,000.
It's hard to push away from.
It is, but $1,300 right then. Like the odds of it being Dalton Schultz was plus $1,500 to be the first touchdown score. And the video's great because they're watching it like, is he in? Yeah, he's right there. He's like there, start rolling right. Like, and you see Schultz turning around, they throw in the ball, and they just start going, no, and they start running around and being crazy. So do won $73,000 because you let it ride. Brisco, best?
Shannon Sharp trying to fight the Grizzlies in a $3,000 cardigan, and then someone tweeted out the photo and asked what Shannon Sharp's album would be called if that was the album cover. The winner, no skips.
Oh, good one.
Pull over. It's a cardigan. Petro next.
Hollywood.